some kind of predictability. And I wonder how you see that, Jürgen.
Yeah, there are different levels to me. You see, we can argue whatever we want. If you don't get through the system, our work is a waste of time. So from that perspective, from a communication perspective, to get people on board, I've come to the conclusions it needs to be so hard what we do that it cannot be refused. Yeah, there are other practices as well, not just the laws of nature, but also what's called leadership questions. When asked in group settings, one can get to where things happen. Simply because nobody dares in a group setting to say no to something that's hard to ignore, that's so obvious, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then indeed there are multiple levels to that. The challenge I see is when we start low, the things are that don't work anymore, like scientific facts are not accepted anymore by large groups.
Yeah.
Let's not start there. There's no sense in doing it. On the contrary, if we demand scientific facts to be fulfilled and science itself doesn't apply its laws, then I'm sorry. The people recognize this right away, and that's the end of their report.
Mm.
So we need to turn it that's, or the question is then, where are the intervention points of the highest impact at the lowest cost and risk? And then those that can impossibly be ignored should be at the top. And then one can get the deeper to further levels to get it into organizations, but we still need to keep it very tight because as soon as it comes over as information overload, which can quickly happen, then people get confused and withdraw again.
Certainly true. But can you use this kind of conceptual arguments with
Well,
people from a non-Western world or people with only a secondary school education?
yeah, it always depends on the situation at hand and the people involved. So basically, if we come from somewhere else and say you need to do this way, the only thing that one can say needs to be done there, I would say, are laws of nature. But anything else that needs to be reviewed in a group of representatives of the people involved in a particular setting for a particular problem, and then they need to come together, understand each other, and develop what we call an executable solution framework. They need to agree on, yes, this is it. And the group contributes. So if you contribute what you have, and the group says, yes, that's needed, then it's in. Yeah, but the group at the end of the day decides on whether the package is executable and scalable to the
Yeah.
desired system level. So it's open. Yeah, use what's there, use what works. And because it is complex, every situation is different. So there are certain things that can act as a foundation, but the people inside the group decide whether it's relevant and what will be used, not the outsiders.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a way we can invite some of the other people now online with us into this conversation?
I think we can slowly hand it over to Bill, can't we?
That's one way to do it,
Let's
of
going to
course.
do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I see here. Well, it's almost 10 after, so I think we can just begin. Ding. I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, the go-to place for those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, the whole world, and daring enough to try. Our topic, and I declared this meeting on 11 April 2026 to be open. Our topic for this week, some new things came up. In fact, up until literally 10 minutes ago, I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to demonstrate some of the things that I've been doing research on in the last 2 days, because they're that new. They're just in the process of being rolled out. So when I looked this morning on my Android device and in preparing. I said, "Oh, they're not there. What happened?" So I see they're there on the laptop version, or they're there on the internet version, the web version, just not yet in the apps. Okay, so uh, but before, so that caused me to be changing the one of the things that I wanted to talk about for this session today, about education, because there's some new things coming up on education, and I was supposed to give a talk yesterday at the UN on the topic, and unfortunately heading to a ceremony in the UN at the UN on Thursday, I threw out my back. And so right now I can't walk. So that I thought here, okay, then I'll discuss with you guys some of the things I wanted to discuss with the group at the UN yesterday. But before that, I didn't want to leave what we were talking about last week totally unanswered. So the discussions last week sort of went into a different direction. I had asked the question, what would be what could you do with $1 billion? And the topic has continued a little bit because we're now looking at the prospects of $2 billion. And but the concept is the same. And what happened last week is really, we got into a lot of debate about, well, what's worth doing or what should we focus on? And in a number of discussions that I've had in the meantime, one of the things is people have their pet projects. There are some people saying, "Oh, we have to do something about mental health and global depression." There are some people saying that we have to do something about hunger. Some others are on all kinds of different things. So I created a video, or I did some research on what would be the likely project or the likely thing that we could do that would have the greatest positive impact for the world. Okay, because one of the things that is causing us to fail in so many attempts is everything is getting fragmented. Everybody's running off in this direction, that direction, that direction. And so we don't get any concentration of effort to be able to actually bring about significant change. So let me see if I can bring up that where okay. Hold on just 1 second. Okay. Okay, I hope this is the right one. Let me let me share my screen. Okay. So what this is about is trying to identify if we had $1 billion at the time of looking at this, what would be the thing that we could do that would be the greatest benefit to the world? And another way of looking at it is what is currently the biggest problem for the world? Maybe that's the way of looking at it. So let me just play this and then we can discuss it. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to explore a really powerful idea for how we can tackle the world's biggest challenges, but maybe from an angle you haven't thought of before. We're on the hunt for what could be the single most valuable project for all of humanity. So let me start by asking you a huge question, and I want you to really think about it for a second. If you could wave a magic wand and solve just one global problem right now, what would it be? I'm willing to bet your mind probably went to one of these, right? Wiping out poverty, curing major diseases, stopping climate change. And look, those are absolutely the right answers. They're incredibly important, world changing goals, no doubt about it. And solving any one of these would be, well, a monumental achievement for humanity. But what if we're only looking at the surface? What if there's something much deeper going on here? Yeah, what if all those massive challenges we just listed, what if they're not the real problems at all? What if they're actually just symptoms? Symptoms of a single underlying issue that's stopping us from solving any of them. Now, that is the big idea we're diving into today. So, what is this deeper problem? Well, some people are calling it a crisis of cooperation. It's the problem behind all the other problems. And listen, this isn't just some fringe theory. Check out this quote from the UN Secretary General. The alarm bells are being rung at the highest levels. We are simply losing our ability, or maybe it's our will, to work together on the big stuff. So let's just define it crystal clear. The real global crisis, from this point of view, is this decline of cooperative engagement. It's our growing inability to just team up and effectively solve the very problems that threaten every single one of us. And here's where you can see the real world impact. This isn't just an abstract idea. I mean, take a look at the UN's own Sustainable Development Goals. This chart shows that for the vast majority of them, we're making little to no progress, which is stuck. And why? Well, you can draw a pretty straight line from that to the fact that we're not working together to get them done. Which, brings us to a pretty tough conclusion. If our basic ability to cooperate is breaking down, how on earth are we supposed to fix gigantic, complex issues like climate change or global poverty? The odds don't look good. But okay, this is where things take a turn from the problem to a really powerful solution. It's what the source material calls the most valuable project. And the whole goal is to build an entire generation of effective problem solvers. So what is this project? At its heart, it's a mission to build our collective muscle, to mobilize a generation that isn't just worried about world issues, but is actually equipped and actively engaged in solving them. Now, mobilizing a generation, that's not just a nice sounding phrase. It means three very specific things. First, you've got to give people the actual skills to handle complexity. Second, you have to build their confidence so they truly believe they can make a difference. And third, you have to foster that active, hands-on engagement. It's all about empowerment, but on a massive scale. This slide just lays out the whole shift in thinking so perfectly. On the left, that's what we're doing now. We're addressing symptoms, one by one. But on the right, that's the new idea. We build the solution itself. So instead of just fighting poverty, we focus on mobilizing people. Instead of just curing a disease, we focus on fostering skills. You see, it's a completely different game plan. And the scale of this whole vision, it's huge. We're not talking about some small niche program. The goal here is to get hundreds of millions of people, especially young people, activated and in the game. So here it is, the crucial point. It all boils down to this one simple but powerful metaphor. For decades, we've been running around frantically trying to put out individual fires. The argument here is that it's time for a new strategy. It's time to stop just fighting fires and start training more firefighters. And that leaves us with this final big question. A question for all of us, really. If building this generation of capable, confident, and engaged problem solvers is truly the most valuable project we can take on, then how do we actually start? What's step one? That's definitely something to think about.
Hold on. Just, just 1 second. Sorry, I've got this cold thing going on as well.
Well, we can talk also.
What's that?
We could talk also and tell you.
Yeah. Just 1 second. Because I don't think that was the one I wanted to actually show you.
Well, it was spot on. So
Well, it is. It is close. It is close. Hold on, just a second. This is.
I think the universe is speaking, is telling you to get some water and let others respond.
Yeah. Okay. I can't tell that they all have the same starting in screen, so I'm not sure. But the difference is that particular um, video was one along the way as we were getting there. That called and said cooperation is the biggest problem, and the actual conclusion at the end was that it's not cooperation, it's engagement. It's engagement that the majority of people worldwide are just not engaged, either because they don't see the problem as being their problem, or because they don't think they can do anything about it, so they're not getting engaged. Before we
You
can
put the
worry
two
about
pieces together.
cooperation, we've got to actually care enough to be engaged.
Can you
So
put the two pieces together, Bill?
what's that?
Cooperative engagement.
No, I think here we've got to stop grouping stuff, because when we do that, we people all start to get different things. I think we've got to sequence stuff. So the sequence here is getting. We want cooperation, but the first step to cooperation is you got to care to do anything. If you don't even care to open the door, we don't have to start worrying to talk to you about doing something with your neighbor. So the first step here is to get people to get engaged, to care enough to get engaged. That was what that video was supposed to say. It's just that as it went through and created multiple videos, when you now look, they all have the same title. I didn't change the titles along the way, so I'm not sure which one's presenting. So, but anyway, it was engagement was the primary concern, and that's what I was trying to get to last week, so that we could then talk about, okay, how could we go about bringing that massive engagement of a significant share of the entire world population ready to do something about the problems we're facing. Because if people are willing to be engaged, if today problem A is the biggest problem, people will get engaged and do something about it. And if tomorrow we got problem B, we've got people ready to be engaged. So anyway, now I want to let you guys give your thoughts on that particular idea, that the biggest single problem and the biggest single benefit would be is if we could get the majority of the world population to care enough and be confident enough to get engaged. So, Joan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
morning.
So I think that the definition of skills development, building confidence, and engagement is good. I think when you want to engage people, um, uh, you can't present global problems to them because like the word problem is what is the problem, what, and so you have to define what it is that you're trying to solve, because we can't solve global, we can't solve problems, but you can solve something. So that there has to be definition, a framework around it so that people know what it is that you're trying to do. And part of engagement is to make it relevant to them. And then once we have those things, then you promote it and stuff like that. But I find that people will listen and they know that there are problems. They know there's climate change. They know that there politics is corrupt. They know that the world needs to, take a deep breath and think about what they want. There's lots of things that we can define as problems, and also that's part of the issue is the word problem because I think it conjures up a negative image in your head. So I tend to use the word challenges depending who I'm speaking to,
Mhm.
because people like to be challenged and they like a competition and it's sort of anyway, that's just my experience. But I think relevance of how the individual um, embrace that issue is very important. But anyway, I'll leave it there for now. I just want to say that when we're going out into the public, what I found, and I've done it in terms of politics and community and environment. So I was always on the fringes of things. And I found that I was very successful in the things that I did because I spoke the language of the normal people and I didn't bring up issues about problems. I brought up issues about how they could be involved and having fun while solving it and building community. That's was my approach. Anyway, I'll leave it
Oh,
there.
oh. Can I riff off of that?
Yeah, I think again had his hand up first.
All right, because I have a perfect segue with her.
Okay, again, are you okay if Jay goes ahead?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay, go ahead, Jay.
This is right on, exactly right. And the engagement. I love it's the reframe of the challenges. That's why we in the game we have the challenge deck, we have the relation deck and the challenge deck. It's not problems, it's challenges. We have to reframe the game. It's reframing the game, and that gets people engaged. We reframe our own game on a personal level, on a family level, on a collective level. If we reframe the game, we can win this whole thing. It's a big game. Life is a big game, and we get to recreate it. That's why it's recreation. Recreate the game and our lives and this world all at the same time. So it's what I've been harping on for a long time, Bill. Here, that we got a solution. We're moving. It's moving, and you're giving exactly the right the engagement, having it fun and engaging is number one because otherwise no one's going to do it if it's not fun. And we've had some tussles about that, but that's exactly right. And especially the kids, you're out if you just deliver them that you're going to try to change them and give them information or give them how to do it, that they're not going to do it. We have to engage them and have it fun and and meaningful as well. The meaningful is what is, I think that's what we need to deliver as wise ones. We have the meaningful, the wisdom, but we have to do it in a fun and engaging way, and then we can affect everything. The whole enchilada can change. So I just want to agree and I've been on this, and things are on the move here
Jay,
for this change to
one
happen.
general thought to what you're saying. I'm not quite sure whether fun or fear is most effective in causing action. I do realize that fear can reach a point where it freezes people, where people just shut down, don't know what to do, and don't do anything. But on the other hand, fear is when we take a look and we're talking about what's going on with the world. And I'm not necessarily thinking just about the kids. When I think about kids, a lot of times it's because today kids are some of the best way to reach the adults. But the challenge that I see is for a lot of people who are engaged in their day-to-day life, or as Joan, your Toronto colleague there, Craig Kielberger, pointed out that part of the reason for inaction for most people is because they don't feel the problems affecting them. It's maybe affecting their neighbor, it's maybe affecting somebody on the other side of the world, but not them. And I think that's a big part of the challenge of engagement is we've got to get people to realize that even if it's not you, it's going to affect you, because that's the example we always talk about with Pakistan, looking at the floods that they had here the last couple of years, that were the severest that we know of, and yet the cause, we know what the cause is, but Pakistan is not really the cause. So the issue is, how do we get the Pakistani people to say, as far out that it may seem, they've got to work to lobby those parts of the world that are causing the consequences that they suffer. And so it's a much harder situation. But I think intention, when we look at sort of like education, we can look at education and say, hey, I need to get this information into the head of a lot of young people, and I'll use whatever trick I can find. So if I can trick them by having it be fun, that something got into their head, that's one thing. But if our goal is to get people to be able to look at any situation and actively decide, I want to learn that, and then go out intentionally. So the question is fun versus intention.
Well, you said fear before, and I want to address that first,
Yeah.
because fear hasn't worked. Look at the world right now. It's been based on fear for millennia, for generations, forever. Survival, is about fear, and that you can wield the fear power. It hasn't worked. So we have to do something different. We have to come from a different perspective.
Well,
and the fun.
has it
Let
not
me
worked
finish.
because people have not seen a path to do something about it? Or if we look, for example, Europe a couple of years ago, the biggest fear was climate change. And the problem is that other fears have replaced that fear. In other words, other fears have taken priority in their mind. Right now is the price of
Well,
gas.
survival, that the world may blow up and that we might be the end of the world as we know it.
Right,
That
but
could be
the thing
going on
about it
right now.
is
So
right
everybody
now the
has.
surveys are showing people think they're more afraid of inflation, and the price of gas and energy is in many people's minds something more to be afraid of than nuclear war, because they don't see the nuclear war as being as close, or they don't see the climate change as being as close, but they see that they may have to give up their vacation, or that they're not going to be able to buy that new washing machine. Right now, in a lot of people's minds, that's a real immediate fear that's taking precedent over the others. And that's part of the challenge, is to uh, influence people's
Yeah,
perception
but we
of
we can't get
financial
everybody.
engagement.
And if somebody's that stuck and they're still worried about their car, then they have to wake up. They haven't woken up yet.
Now you're
And
talking.
perhaps, Bill, we could have Eugen come and
Yeah.
maybe even
Yes,
talk
yes, Eugen,
about
you, yes.
the technicalities of human nature here. Maybe he made a few wonderful points, before the meeting, and I know a lot of us weren't yet on the call. So perhaps that perspective would be valuable at this point.
Yes, again.
Yeah. What I was wondering about is what are the most damaging root causes why engagement doesn't work? Yeah. And if you don't have those, I'm afraid people get intuitively triggered again by, okay, nothing new. We have seen this before. But then there was something in here today already that to me is brought out of our initiatives as one of the most damaging root causes. That was the skills to handle complexity. Those are missing completely. They are missing everywhere. And they are underlying why. Well, it's a root cause. It's a solvable root cause. But how shall I say, the key ingredients don't come from where people expect them to come from. Yeah, I've had this discussion about levels just at the very beginning of today's sessions about levels of intervening. Where do we need to intervene first? Yeah, and that should be at levels that cannot be denied. But if we try to improve engagement, well, to me, it's like changing culture. And one of the key lessons I've learned there, if you want to change culture, do not start a culture change project. Solve the solvable root causing hiding behind it, and problems disappear automatically. That's a real life experience we had with a big project. It really happened. So to me, this skill set to handle complex problems, that is absolutely critical if we want to get people engaged. Without them, they will be triggered. Too much is missing and withdraw.
Yeah, they call them soft skills, developing soft skills.
Yes. I think, Bill, we need to define, I don't know, maybe I'm in the wrong group, I don't know, but I tend to want to focus on defining what it is that we're trying to do and do something about it, and you learn from it. The thing is, I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve world problems. Well, we'll never do that because the world changes all the time. And thank God for that. But I'm saying that how you can't go out into the public and say to someone, I'm trying to solve world problems, because what's that? Everybody has a different problem. They have a different way of looking at it. So we have to, if you want a campaign that's good, you have to define what it is that the campaign is about, and what it is that, and define the parameters around it. You can have a big vision to get to, the serious things, but you have to start somewhere so that people buy in. Because it's like starting a new club and somebody says, oh, how many members do you have? I don't have any members. They're going to hesitate. But if you had done and asked 100 of your friends and colleagues, can you join my club when I started? And they did. You say, oh, I have 100 members. People are more open to doing it, right? So I keep asking, what problem is it that we're trying to address? What challenge?
I think, Joan, one of the things that we want to do here is that we do want to say that we would like to address the world's problems at the root cause. But another thing that we want to do is invite individuals, as members who think that way, who would like to address that, who have the resources and the means to make those pivots, bringing back, the relevance of, the UN by utilizing the SDGs, or even Rotary International with this particular movements that we're trying to cause. If we've got the right movers and shakers back with us and engaged in what we're doing, we don't have to define the cause. We simply have to be the center and the think tank for those individuals who seek to do what we're doing at scale on our level. What do you think about that?
Well, if you're asking me, that all sounds really good. Sorry. But what is it that those experts and those people who are addressing it, what is it that they're buying into?
I think here one of the issues, and going back a little bit to my military background, one of the things here with the military is we train the military to fight all kinds of situations. We don't know which is going to be the situation tomorrow,
Preparation,
but
yeah.
you're prepared for all the eventualities. And I think here, when we're looking at what we're trying to do globally, it's, as I say here, there are a lot of people that can imagine, like you said, oh, okay, I can picture myself going into a school and I can make that school top notch. I'm very confident that I can go, I can look those teachers in the eyes, I can look those students in the eyes, and I can go and do something with that. But our situation is here, no. We're looking for people who are prepared to be ministers of education. We're looking not for people to be sergeants or the leaders of a squad. We're looking for the generals who are going to plan the tactics and are going to direct all the movement of all the troops down at the bottom. So that's indirect leadership. It's not leadership where you're able to see and touch and do things direct. It's leadership where you're able to cause things to happen and plan the strategies. So this is what we're seeing is lacking, and it's where we do see it applied. It's very impactful and successful. For example, in India, Rotary India wanted to make a major difference. The Prime Minister of India started this program, Swachh Bharat, which was let's clean up India, and with sanitation and everything else, but was making very, very little progress. So Rotary India came along. There's 3,500, or there was at the time about 3,500 Rotary clubs in India. And they decided, let's work together. So they came up with a thing called the Chennai Declaration. And they pledged to basically adopt 10,000 schools at a time and upgrade all the sanitation, clean water, hygiene, education, and everything. So this is something that has an impact. Individual Rotary clubs running around doing here some things.
You just proved my point, Bill. Have a global vision and then have a implementation strategy. So the global vision was sanitation, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, but so there's a focus, right?
Yeah.
They didn't say we want to do, paper, toilet paper, or whatever. That comes with it. That we're going to address sanitation in the Chennai area. Very defined.
Not the Chennai area, all across India.
Right. Okay. But they started
No,
successful.
it was just that was the place that the declaration was announced.
But the thing that I'm trying to say is it was defined. When something is defined, you can build a strategy around it. So you can have a global vision. And I want to say that part of what I think of the SDGs is not a top-down strategy. I think, yes, you have to have a global vision, but you have to have the local implementation. That's just me. I just want to say for the record. So when you use the military, in a sense, it's good. But the military is about defense. They know what their role is. Even if the stuff is made up of the threats, it's still what they do. But so it's focused. Again, it's defined. I think that when there's definition, people come on board. That's what you're trying to do. Because yes, of course, we all want to solve global problems. We all want everyone. Well, I do anyway. I want to, I would love to see that everybody's equal. I'd love to see that, everybody has something to eat, and like we have a world that can happen.
Yeah.
Why it isn't is because we talk about stuff and not let it happen.
Joan, you're 100% right in the definition, and that's where I was getting to. The same point is, for example, we had a logistics problem in the U.S. Army, in the European theater that I discovered what the cause was, and so I was able to come up with a new set of procedures that we could apply across the entire European theater that would fix a problem that had existed for decades. And so you're right. We need procedures because we see in Rotary, one of the big reasons for so much failure in Rotary is Rotary just goes out and says, do some good. And then the local club is sitting there and saying, hey, what can we do? What can we do? But if you can come out and say, okay, we've identified a problem, we've developed a solution, we've developed the supply chains, we developed all the things that will support that local implementation. And here are the training modules. So to help the local implementers know what to do in different situations. And it's not about saying, okay, one size fits all. That's poor planning from the top. It's about recognizing that there are different situations and putting in the mechanisms to identify what situation you're facing and what to do about it for as many percent of the cases as possible. So yeah, so I think the definition point is 100% agreement. And there's another example out of India with the same kind of a situation. There's Nadia district. It's the size of Switzerland, both in population in northeastern India, and they had 40% of the population engaged or practicing open defecation. And open defecation is causing about 600,000 deaths a year, mostly in Africa and South Asia. And in India, they had tried ever since independence in the 1940s. They had really made this a priority to do something about it and had made almost no progress. So Nadia district was just typical 40% practicing open defecation. And a new magistrate came in and decided that something would be done. So rather than just going out and putting out political posters and stuff like this about it, he went and he mobilized the masses. And literally the women, it was the women of Nadia district that were mobilized actually by the school kids. He went to the school kids. The school kids brought their mothers and aunts into the effort, and then he organized the supply chains. Those women built 1,000 toilets a day in Nadia district for an entire year. 365,000 toilets were built across there. And until that point, a lot of the people that were practicing open defecation said, oh, a toilet gets reused, it's not clean. Going in a field that's a virgin each time, that's clean. And so it was hard to break that culture. And yet here, after the end of the year, there was a TV documentary on it. He reduced open defecation from 40% down to less than 1%, was honored by the UN in 2013. And one of the things that the TV documentary was reporting on was the culture change was so extreme that when you went to visit somebody in their house, they would insist that you come and look at their toilet. that was such a point of pride. Okay. And so
just going back to the military analogy, you've heard of the movie Inglourious Bastards with Brad Pitt.
I have not seen it.
Anyway, it was a special force that sort of went in and in the military, and a lot of a lot of them were Canadians. The movie is mostly Americans, but it's a movie. But I knew one of the guys that was in that group, and I said to him, geez, he was a super nice guy, really good looking. Even at his age, I said, "Boy, you must have been a charmer." But anyway, I knew him for a number of years. He died a few years ago, but my husband was a friend of his, and he taught me a lot about the military strategy. He says you have to have a strategy, and you have to know exactly how to implement it. Tactics was what he called it. And I said, but you're killing people. And he says, no, I was killing the enemy. Like, so in his, like, again, framing, I said, okay, because it was during the war, right? And I said, but then you went out with women of in the same city, of the same ethnic group, like the German women. And he says, yeah, but they're women. And it was like, so he knew, what he says to me, listen to me very carefully. If you are doing a campaign, make sure you know what it is that you're doing, what your tactics are, and you go in, you focus on it, and get out. Let the people, because he knew I was community engagement, he says, let the people embrace it, let the people take it on. Your job is to go there and help in whichever way you want. So he was trying to turn it into a community. He wasn't an expert in communities in military, but I really learned a lot from him, because each time I do a campaign, I think, what is a strategy? Who it is? What do I want from it? How is it going to be sustainable? And then develop a strategy around it, implementation strategy. Anyway, I hope, and people respond because it's defined. I just find this definition is what helps.
Define, absolutely. And as a result, one of the things here that an army would never do is go out and say to your soldiers, okay, go out there and win the war and go figure it out and do your own thing.
No,
right?
they know. They know.
They know because they're working as a unit. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, it's not necessarily voluntary, but it's if you want, as a young man, he was 14 at the time, said, "Hey, if we want something to happen or somebody to do something, if we don't plan to cause it to happen, that's the definition of wishful thinking." And so you've got to go and say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? And then you got to plan how you're going to cause it. And that means that if the people down there are currently not behind it or they're currently not doing it, it's up to you to figure out how to cause them to do it, how to make them do it.
So what is it that we're trying to accomplish, Bill?
Okay, so we're trying to accomplish here that people care enough, are not aware enough and care enough about the major problems that we're facing, so that they're willing to get engaged. I can't tell you how often I'm hearing, especially among young people, you mention something about a problem, they go, da 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 da, I don't want to hear about it. Okay, and so this is the first challenge. If they say, I don't want to hear, but I just want to ignore that the problem's out there. It may kill me tomorrow, but today I'm going to enjoy today. And our challenge is, how do we get them to be aware? And the reason they're saying that is because they don't think they can do anything about it. So this gets into your point, Joan, of saying we have to show people a path, a credible path that they believe can be successful in doing something about the issue.
Given them the tools, we have to deliver tools.
And
then share how to use the tools, and then let it propagate through the communities and through their lives. So it's delivery of the right tools.
I think more important than the tools is the goal, the wish, the desire. That's more important here. It depends what we're trying to do. If we're just trying to go and say, hey, enjoy life, that's one thing. If we're trying to say, no, we have a very specific thing. The dam broke upstream and the flood is coming down our way. We need people to go out there and put sandbags up. It's not enough to go and say, oh yeah, well, why don't you do something about this flood that's coming? We've got to coordinate the actions and activities, or somebody does, or we have to get them to do it. And that's the challenge when we're looking here at engagement, that so many of the problems that we've got out there, if people don't get engaged, that's what we've got today. The problem is we're not solving the problems because people aren't getting engaged. And a big part of that is because in the community used to be the core of life for most people back in the 100 years ago or so.
Well,
and that the community for the most part is broken down. What's left of the community are not really capable of addressing
Then and
the
and
issues.
and we've that's then, Bill. What we have is to one define what does community mean now, because that word is always thrown around. It's like sustainable. What do we mean by the community? A lot of companies are using it because it's a word that everybody wants to hear, and it seems
Yeah.
like people like
Greenwashing.
repetition.
Mhm.
But I guess what I would say is, where do we want to be a year from now? To say that we're so proud of what we've done.
Mhm.
I think I've been on this call for a year, and I actually don't know what the definition of why we're here. I know the idealistic, so I'm attracted to it, of obviously wanting to help solve problems and challenges and come up with solutions. But I'd like to have something that I can say, geez, on April 11th, 2027, we defined this problem. Here's what we've learned. Here are how many people were involved. Here is the impact. How could we expand this program and bring in these experts that we're thinking of, the UN, those kinds of things. That's how I would approach it. That's just my
Mhm.
approach, but it doesn't mean that's the
Yeah.
best approach. If other people have it, I'm open. As long as you're going to be successful if we're all have bought into what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Because if we're all just like, this is what we should do, this is what we should do, instead of talking about strategies, let's talk about what the purpose is, buy into it. We can argue about it for a little while, or debate it, but at least, can say in the next, between now and the next 3 weeks, all of us say, okay, is this the purpose? We agree on it, and then go from there.
Yep.
I
Can,
think that,
can I make a suggestion? Because again, I'm only going to be on for a little bit, and I have to pop out, and I haven't come for a couple of times here, and I'm back in because I saw your message there, Bill. Because we're implementing. We have a full plan. We have a strategic plan. We're implementing it in different communities and networks, and this would be a big one, Bill. And with your military background and to be able to embed that into this plan, a strategic plan of engaging the world's youth, especially, but all of us, and to reframe the game and to be able to deploy this on a global level. We're doing it, so it's happening. It's going to go the speed of what the universe and what God and all of us want. But this, I believe, this group can be very impactful. So I'd like to propose that. I'd love to play the game in this group, so you guys got the experience, because it is about experience. That's what we're talking about delivering, and we can come up with some solutions. We call it game storming for community solutions. We've done it many times. We've done it in many groups for years, for over a decade in that format. And I think it'd be helpful and something more engaging for this group, because you're going to lose Joan, and you don't want to lose Joan. She's a cornerstone. You don't want to lose Joan. And I've seen this a couple, she's still here. And I think a few others that are still here. But if we can get your group engaged, that's why I came in, and Dare to Be Great experience. let's have an experience, and everybody can play within it, and we can come up with some solutions. And also, you'll have an experience of what we're delivering, what is going to happen, and you're going to see it come out. And it would be great to do it through, this group as well, and to bring it into the Rotary and to the UN.
Yeah.
We're ready to do that. We have a
What?
plan that's been well crafted.
Yeah.
It's been time tested, and now we have to deliver it in 2026 to 2027. We're going to be delivering it, and I would love to explore the potential to do it. With
Jay,
you
one
and with
of
this group.
the things here that I think would be very useful, and we've talked about it, and we need to republish it, is we've identified roughly a dozen specific projects, very specific projects. They're all aimed at uh, bringing the awareness and attention, but it's all about recruiting an army of hundreds of millions of people that we could say on Tuesday, everybody roll up your sleeves, and we want you to go and dig a 3-foot ditch, whatever it is. And we could count on hundreds of millions of people actually doing that. And the idea on that, some of it is game, because a lot of it is competitions, but they're competitions in coming up with ways to encourage cooperation, if you would. Well,
Like
they're spreading
reframing,
awareness.
like reframing even the word army in the Planet of Peacecraft. We have the "are we" instead of an
No, we're not
army.
using the word army. I just
No,
use
I'm just
that
saying
to
that we
get,
have another word. We
yeah.
can reframe everything, all the negative spin of our planet and that we're dealing with has been intentionally embedded there to keep us trapped and as cattle or sheeple, I call it. So we can wake up. Once we wake up, we can reframe these words. So we've reframed the word army into, because that's about me. It's are we instead of an army. And then it's also in the question in there of are we ready to do it, so it's kind of, we play with words, we play with everything. If we start to play, that's the engagement, and we have to instill that into the kids. That's why we have the galactic intelligence kids, that the kids are waking up and they can be creating their own game, because they know inside, but we trap them down. We have to free their minds, that they and empower them to. And that's the real core of it, I think, here and everywhere, is about empowerment.
Yeah,
Let's empower.
I think some of
And
those.
Bill, if you could
Yeah.
elaborate on maybe the importance of us causing a mass mobilization to happen, what would be that particular after effect?
Yeah.
Not only would it be positive, but we wouldn't have to worry about maybe even changing the rhetoric if we were to give the world that type of example.
Yeah. For example, let's say here that we're able to present a viable plan of taking several tens of millions of children who are currently starving on the streets, begging and foraging for just food to live for another day, that we were literally within a matter of months able to take tens of millions of children off the streets and get them into a program where they're able to get an education and be fed. That was a credible program with a defined process that people could join, that would accomplish something that exceeds anything that the UN has accomplished since its founding, would have a very significant output that would cause all the media and everybody to be talking about it, everybody down in every community, because accomplishing it would involve a major chunk. More than 10% of the entire world population would actually be engaged in doing concrete things for a month, at least a month, and it would accomplish that kind of a result. That's the kind of thing that make people extremely proud if they were part of doing it. that cause everybody to talk about it and everybody to be looking about, hey, what can we do next? What can we, what's the next thing we could take on? That's
Right.
a big part of our strategy. Our big part of our strategy is to find something that's going to get the whole world talking about it, literally the whole world talking about it, down into the individual small villages and communities, but also in the major media and also in the halls of all governments and bodies like the UN. So I think Mark Henry just raised his hand. I think Joan and Eugen, if I'm not mistaken, your hands are still up from before. Is that correct?
Why not? I wanted to respond to the
Go,
discussion we just
go.
had.
Yes, go ahead, Eugen.
Yeah, on the one hand, yes, I agree. We need something more concrete that we have now. On the other hand, I have an issue with the how. What came over to me is how the definition side of things uh, could be approached. What I heard is very similar to many, many initiatives I haven't come across. So we need to start with something concrete, and they got stuck in the system. On the other hand, Will's very video from today gave exactly the reason why things don't happen. And that was the underlying thing, common to all of those. Yeah, and to finish my further contribution is, when it comes down to what is beneath it, we find now that all the problems, the big problems, are treated by using exact and linear practices, the engineering practices. Yeah, people are educated in it. People who can think out of the box, can solve complex problems, they're excluded by hiring and job advancement processes. Our children are educated in the exact and linear processes. Those who have the talents to solve complex projects are pushed into the exact linear problems, into the exact linear practices. So to me, as long as that is the case, there's no way complex problems can be solved. The children don't have the talents and the skills anymore to do that. They can do things like very straightforward, like these projects you talked about in India, but not the complex ones. But so how can we get the people on board? We can say, hey, wait a moment. The choice is yours. Do you want to continue fueling today's problems, or do you want to join the experts and leaders actually addressing them, actually understanding how to navigate through complex systems and to the simple solutions? Yeah, that could be a message that could and should work to quite some people in higher places, the decision makers, the advisors, the experts behind it, because even the experts are trapped in this exact and linear thinking. Yeah. So from that perspective, there are two things. There are the big projects. There are two tracks actually. There are the big project. If you can mobilize the children to do something and that has media attention across the world, fantastic. But we need also something that addresses this underlying issue of this linear thinking used to solve complex problems and get the message out, get the education out, so people can solve complex problems and become the leaders of the future.
Again, I agree with you on that in general. I think the strategy that we've been looking at is that we have to get people. It's like when you're learning something, like you're going to be an apprentice and you're learning something. You start off with something simple, you learn to master that, and then you go on to something that's a little bit more complex. You master that, then you go on to something that's a little bit more complex. And what we're looking at here is the idea to recruit. In other words, initially, it's more about quality. Quantity is more important than quality. That's for the first steps. Get them engaged, get them involved. And then what we can do is taking them from doing something very simple, in other words, having those participants initially just doing what they're told. Okay, that's first step. You do what you're told, and then you're able to see, wow, look at that. We did what we were told, but look at what we accomplished. The next thing here is to go and say, okay, think about it. You get engaged and think about what could be done that could make things better. And so they're learning to develop some ideas of their own. And then more complex ideas. How do you take more dimensions into considerations? So I think what we're looking at initially when we talk about the engagement, that's step one, very simple. If you make step one too complex, it's like going up.
Don't get me wrong. That can be done, no question about it. But if there isn't in the background an executable solution framework, so people know where it needs to go to, that it's not many people who need to understand that, just a small group.
Yeah.
But as long as this small group is in the background and is ready as soon as things need to move forward to the next step, that is available is absolutely key.
Yeah.
Today, things change so quickly. If you don't respond properly, it's the end of the project.
Yeah. It's sort of like going up a stairs. If you can't get to the first step, you know, it's not, there's no value talking about the further steps if we can't get people to the first step. So I agree with you. You need to have a plan. It's not just, okay, take the first step and then we'll try to figure out where we go from there. We need to go and be able to have a blueprint or a plan how we see this evolving and going, and that's subject to change. One of the things that's really important is some people will make a plan, and then situations change. The situations, the environment change, but they're not willing to change the plan because they say, no, we said we're going to do this. And we've got to constantly be going and reevaluating and adjusting the plan based on the realities of the situation.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And that has to be our mission, really, is that we engage people in doing that. And in the process of doing that, they're growing. So that in the beginning, they need a lot of guidance, but over time, they need less and less and less guidance because they're developing the competence. So it's like going to a Rotary Club and say, go do your membership, go out and grow your membership. And there's nobody in that club that has any experience in marketing or communications and so forth. You know, you can go and guide them and they'll learn and they realize, oh, okay, yes, this kind of communication is effective and that kind is not so effective. But I wanted to, Mark Henry put his hand out. He's given up maybe. Let's hear from Mark Henry and then I want to talk a little bit about where we can go in general from here. So because there's some new stuff I definitely would like to make you aware of related to education, but I think it's of interest. So Mark Henry, please.
Okay. First of all, hello everyone. Apologies, I've been kind of in and out because I'm moving, and so at some point my network was dropping, and that also made it challenging because usually I like to take notes and then I can remember my train of thought, because some of the earlier comments I wanted to make, then I had John mention them. I had Eugen's points as well, mentioned some of what I wanted to say. But let me just generally say two things. First, Bill, I would really appreciate having that video because my internet went out at the beginning. So I kind of caught up with the last bit. I'd love to listen to it all. And then two other pieces of information you mentioned, which I'm now putting together. One, you say that there is a strategy. And then two, you say that there is 7 definitive projects. I joined the Dare to Be Great community last year. So I think if those were shared within the community, they were shared before I joined because I've not read those. So I'd appreciate having those, which would ensure that even as I'm, reflecting and preparing and consulting it's kind of aligned with where we are going. But that said, I agree with what I feel is the general consensus of the meeting, which is let's get our let's get our hands dirty. Let's start out with something. And my feeling is let's have the vision. So if we are saying we are looking at a billion person initiative or something like that, let's have the vision. But let's not be afraid to even pilot it with 100 people, because we may get caught up in the paralysis of trying to optimize, and which is good. I'm an engineer myself. I believe very much in planning, but sometimes when we're dealing with societal issues, there's an amount to which you can plan, and there's an amount to which you now just have to get started, and then um, you just keep adapting to the situation as it is. So I'm of the view that let's agree on. Last week I gave some ideas, but you say there is already 7 projects. I would be happy to have those, at the foreground, and reflect on those. I don't know if there's any others that have come up, but if we could get this energy of ours and we channel it into certain things,
Yeah.
and then we see how should we face this, and we give ourselves a target and say, you're going to address the General Assembly in, you said September. So let's have something for you to demonstrate by then.
Yeah.
If it's 100,000 people, great. If it is 20 people, great. But let's see that you have something to demonstrate by then.
Yeah. One thought here in marketing, there's a concept where you create a momentum, you create a critical mass, and then it creates like a whirlpool effect. It's a suction effect that will bring people in. In other words, I've mobilized here over 100,000 people on 3 separate occasions across the entire United States and several European countries. And the first one that I did happened, I accomplished it in less than 8 weeks without having any infrastructure of my own in place, just an idea walking out of a theater in New York City. Oh, let's mobilize 100,000 people. And I didn't say 100,000. I had no idea, but we wanted to do a lot of people. The actual amount at the end surprised me too. But the thing about it is that you can create. There's a word for it. I'm not quite sure. You can create this. It's almost like a flash mob type of a thing where the event it just explodes. So when pilots don't work, one of the things that we've looked at here in general is looking at pilot projects and saying, where have pilot projects resulted in really massive movements? And I think I've mentioned this as a gentleman. I think Jerica you were in the meeting room at the UN when the one gentleman, when the DIA called for grassroots efforts, and he stood up and said that he studied history, and looking throughout history, he can't find any examples where things have gone from the bottom up on social change. They're almost all dictated from the top. And that when we look at history of what stuff.
Read the French Revolution.
What's that?
He didn't know about the French Revolution.
But you know, when you look at the revolutions like the French revolutions, you find there was a catalyst of a couple of people that actually triggered and caused it. The environment was ready to support it.
Yeah.
But that goes, you can look at the American Revolution, you can actually find the exact same thing where a handful of wealthy
80 people.
merchants
80 people.
literally caused the
Yeah.
revolution for personal
80
gain.
people. I looked it up, did some
Yeah.
research, was
Right.
80 people. But they were so razor sharp focused
Yes. But that's
on
that's
achieving
the
it.
idea. That's what we want to be. We want to be those people that cause the changes to happen. So, but the idea is that if we can do the publicity correct and so forth, we can create the mass movement that people do it only because others are doing it. In other words, they're not doing it because they agree or want to do that particular thing. They're doing it because it's the cool thing. It's the hot thing right now to do, sort of the ice bucket challenge type of a thing. So that is a little bit that what we've looked at, and we think we've got the plan. And Mark Henry, I think I'm going to do exactly what you said. I know I said it several times. We're going to put out the descriptions of the it's roughly a dozen projects that they're interconnected because some of them are built on the results of the previous projects, the steps, but they're laid out as a strategy for creating that engagement, awareness, building the confidence, and bringing about the actual changes that we're looking at. And I think that would really help a lot because it would be useful if our discussions were talking about, hey, let's make this specific change to that particular step. But a big challenge is taking that first step, figuring out how do we get that first step off the ground, because that creates the momentum and the credibility that enables the second and third steps to be successful.
Can I jump in,
Yes,
Bill, before
Jay.
I jump off?
Yes, go ahead, Jay.
So I've put in some links that addresses it all there. So if anybody's interested, or if you're interested, Bill, please look at them. I'm not sure if you have. I've shared a few of them. We have some solutions, and my suggestion is that we implement it in this group. This is one of the groups, a Dare to Be Great group, that is a team that could turn into multiple teams that can reach that 80 and 80,000 and go into millions of people very quickly. It can cascade. So I just want to encourage, everybody or anybody's interested to look at some of those links there. I think it'll talk to what we're talking about every week here, but with a plan of action that could be implemented, that is being implemented. So I'm not waiting for anything. We're doing it, but I think this group, with the reach that it has and the work that you've done, Bill, and your strategic, you can be, like I said, not a general, you'll be a specific. Will be a specific instead of a general, and you can help to lead this whole movement that we're going to be creating in this world, and it'll cascade out, and it'll replicate itself, and it'll be fun, and we can do it in there's a whole nother paradigm that is being built now, and we have the solutions. We all have the solutions in us, and I'd love to do it with the Dare to Be Great group to offer an experience. So we're not just talking, but we're actually going deep dive, and we're playing, and we're learning from each other, and we're connecting on a deeper level. So that's just an open invitation. Whenever you want to do that, I'd love to make that available.
Post it in the chat, and please, everyone, if take a look at it and see what you think. The one thing here that we've really been focused on is how do we cause, in less than a project frame of less than 3 to 4 months, cause several 100 million people on this planet to all participate in something for many, many hours.
Are you talking about with the reach that you're talking about of being able to directly go into the UN and the Rotaries and other clubs that have that reach? Is that what you're talking about?
That includes that. In other words, it's putting together the whole package. I did a thing here with a country in Europe, for example, where we wanted to be able to get every community doing something, and a youth education project, and we were able to get the tourist offices of all the different cities. It was an international friendship project. And the way we were able to do that, we had some communications that were going through the national government, some going through the associations of mayors, some going through the principals of schools, some going through the teachers associations, so that you can plan it so that you attack the issue from a dozen different sides. So there's no way that anybody would not get the word, or they're getting the word, they're getting it in their left ear, then they're getting it in their right ear, and
Right.
they start to conclude, wow, this is something we need to pay attention to. It's, you have to really plan a communications and marketing campaign in detail.
Yeah.
And then you work to bring the individual pieces about.
Yeah.
So, Jay, we'll look at that, and
Yeah.
then people
Take,
that are
take a look,
interested.
and again, if interested, then I'll come back in. But again, I want to come back in with
Well, for the
actually
rest of
doing
the
an
session today, I'm about to switch over because I actually want to go through these education tools that are now available, literally, some of them coming available yesterday and today, that I think will have a very, very significant impact on so much of what is going to be possible and happening with AI,
just a
especially.
notebook at LM. Thank you for bringing that to,
Well,
I've heard
it's
about it, and
yes.
you're the one who encouraged me to really get into it. So that's what a lot of what I've deployed there is, a lot of work, of you have to still massage it, but in the end you hit a button and it pulls it together in a beautiful way. So
It's
I love
it's
that part, and I
it's
thank you
going to
for that,
go.
my friend.
Watch the video of this later on, because you're going to see it's going a lot further than what you could do without Notebook LM a week ago.
Do you have a group, a WhatsApp group for your Dare to Be Great?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Could
we are.
you could you invite me into that? Because I'm not part of
Sure.
that. I'd love to
Oh,
interact in there
okay.
as well.
Yes, definitely can do that.
Okay.
Is
All
it
right.
possible for Jay and Yogan to do a presentation of their programs?
Yes, absolutely. We can schedule that for either one of our regular meetings, or we could even do a special meeting on that.
I'm happy to do that. I'm happy
Yeah.
to do
Well,
it.
that way we can actually see what you're saying and ask you questions and see how it works, and then Yogan as well to see what he has to offer, and then help us to know what tools we have, if
Yeah.
any, to go forward as well. Sorry, Mamuna.
The,
Okay. Yes.
everything is there about that. What I'd like to deliver is an experience. So you
Yeah.
actually experience it firsthand, and then you'll be able to see from there. Right? The information, what I've left there today, you have enough information, more than enough information. It really goes deep, and it gives a lot of the plan, and lays things out, and
Jay,
we're and
Jay, do
and
you have
again, I
the
want to thank you,
video?
Bill. Bill, I want to thank you because about 2 months ago, David was on the call,
Yeah.
and he said he's been part of the group for
Mhm.
4 years, and he hasn't come back because he really wants to implement, and we are implementing. So I'm working with the hitchhikers in a big way, and we're implementing a hitchhikers version of the game, and we're going to be collaborating together. So again, I want to thank you for that introduction there,
Okay.
or through this group.
Mhm.
And I think there are others that we can really piece it together, and we can win this thing. We can win this global crazy war that's been going on for so long. We can
Well,
win it.
we need to have a lot of different approaches because the problems are
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
So I think here, hopefully, there'll be a lot of people that will be interested in playing the game, and people will learn through that. So we'll encourage people to take a look. That's one of the approaches that we want to look at. But I'm also, like I said, going to publish our strategy of our dozen projects that we've outlined, because that shows another alternative way. but it's one that is very intentional about getting the hundreds of thousands or even billions of people engaged in the future.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you
Okay.
on that.
So
I'm going
anyway,
to
let
jump
me
off
let
here.
you
God bless you all. Thank you.
let me switch over to Maimuna because she was
I want to
waiting
hear her
quite a
first.
while.
I'm gonna listen to Moma, and then I'm gonna switch off there. So yeah.
Okay.
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 Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, take care. Maimuna.
Hello, Bill. How are you?
Hi, good, good. Go ahead, Maimuna.
Bill, there is an internet connection.
Yeah,
I wanted to share my thoughts. Let me, and thank you for giving this opportunity.
go ahead.
Uh, uh, Hello, everyone. Thank you for this powerful platform to share ideas that can truly shape the future. So, when we hear the question, what could we do for the world with $2 billion? So, most people immediately think of building infrastructure, funding projects, or donating resources. But I want to shift the perspective. The real global crisis today is not just financial, it is a real crisis. So, according to global trends, millions of students spend 10 to 16 years in education, yet a large percentage of them are still not job ready. So, this creates a gap between education and employability, especially in developing regions. So, let me make this real. In our daily lives, we see students who memorize content but don't understand it, spend 4 to 5 hours studying but retain very little, and as well as complete degrees but lack practical skills, feel confused about where to start earning. So this is not a talent problem, this is a system and strategy problem. So now here is where my perspective and my AI course connect to the solution. We are living in the first time in history where AI can compress time. Tasks that one took hours can now be done in minutes, but only if students know how to use AI correctly. For example, a student writing assignments manually may take 3 to 4 hours, while with AI guidance, they can complete it in 30 to 45 minutes with better quality. So, research that takes days can now be summarized in minutes. Skill learning that takes months can be accelerated through guided AI practice and real time feedback. So, this is what I call learning on steroids, not just learning faster, but learning smarter and deeper. So through my AI course, my focus is not just teaching tools, it's a building a mindset shift from passive learning to active problem solving, from degree focus to skill focus, from learning only to learning plus earning. No, if I had $2 billion, I would not spend it randomly. I would invest it in a three-layer global impact system. The first one is AI-powered learning platforms, means that accessible to anyone with internet personalized learning paths based on student level, 24 by 7 AI tutors for instant guidance. And the second one is a skill to earning ecosystem. Means that training students in real world digital skills, connecting them with freelance, remote work, and job opportunities, turning learning into immediate income streams. And the third one is internship and practical exposure network. Means that because theory without practice has no value nowadays, and providing structured internships after learning, helping students build confidence, portfolios, as well as experience. But there is the most important insight: we don't need to wait for $2 billion to start this change. Even at a small level, I am already applying this model, teaching students how to learn faster using AI and guiding them towards skills that matter, and creating pathways toward internships and earning. Because real change does not start with money, it starts with clarity and action. So, in my opinion, the greatest benefit to the world right now is not just more resources, but smarter use of knowledge. If
Yeah,
we can teach people how to learn, how to think, and how to adapt, we can
yeah.
not just solving problems today, we're
Maimuna,
preparing them for the future.
Maimuna, you weren't in the early part of the call where I showed a video that the biggest single problem and biggest single benefit we could achieve would be engagement in getting a large share of the world population caring and confident enough to get engaged in doing something about whatever the problems might be. I want to play a video now that's talking a little bit. There's two videos I'm going to play, talking a little bit about where the AI is. I don't know if we can say where it's going, but where the major bodies of the world are paying attention to it. So the first video here has to do with how the United Nations. We know that the technological world is moving so fast. And for most part, regulatory bodies, parliaments, and other institutions are way too slow because most of our institutions are reactive. They're not proactive generally. But the UN had a wake-up moment here a few years ago and has started implementing some things. So the first video I'm going to show is really talking about what it is, what it is here that is happening in the UN. And the second part of it's going to be very, very pertinent, Mamona, to what you were just talking about. So let me start the first one.
Okay, sure, Bill.
So can everybody see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, where's my, I gotta move this out of the way.
Artificial intelligence has moved out of the experimental sandbox. It is now actively integrating into global systems, routing everything from healthcare diagnostics to telecommunications networks. This integration exposes a severe geopolitical vulnerability. The immediate threat to global stability is not a software-driven apocalypse, but the rapid widening of the AI divide. This map highlights the reality of that divide. A handful of advanced economies dominate the entirety of AI development, while 118 nations remain almost entirely excluded from the ecosystem. Exclusion means these countries have zero input on the global norms dictating how AI operates. It guarantees their economic marginalization as digital value chains extract data from the global south while concentrating the generated wealth in a few northern tech hubs. When the tools of future growth are owned by a few, and the data is extracted from the many, the gap between nations ceases to be a delay. It becomes a permanent structural barrier to a functioning international system. To address this, the United Nations underwent an aggressive institutional overhaul between 2023 and 2026. They abandoned the historical approach of running fragmented, agency-specific pilot projects. In its place, the UN established a centralized strategy mandated by the Summit of the Future, a systemic architecture designed to be universal, networked, and rooted in local data. We can visualize this response as a four-tier governance stack. It organizes a complex multi-agency effort into a clear blueprint, moving upward from science to norms to technical standards and finally to real-world application. This structure allows the UN to execute a dual mandate. It builds hard technical guardrails against risk while simultaneously deploying AI to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals. Governing a globally inclusive AI ecosystem requires deliberately building this operational stack from the ground up, layer by layer. The base of the stack is Layer 1, scientific consensus and central coordination. This matrix breaks down the foundational report from the high-level advisory body on AI. It maps three critical global gaps: representation, coordination, and implementation, directly to 7 actionable pillars for institutional reform. The administrative anchor for these pillars is the Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies, launched in January 2025, to act as a permanent system-wide routing hub, eliminating duplicate efforts across different UN agencies. Leading this effort is Amandeep Singh Gill. His explicit mandate is to serve as the connector, catalyst, and convener for the entire system. But policy needs an evidence engine. So the UN established the Independent International Scientific Panel on AI. to act as an early warning system, filtering actual scientific foresight from speculative fear. The General Assembly appointed 40 experts with strict geographic and gender parity, led by deep learning pioneers like Yoshua Bengio. Centralized, impartial scientific consensus is the mandatory prerequisite. Without it, any subsequent regulatory policy lacks a factual foundation. That foundation supports Layer 2, ethical and legal guardrails. This is where scientific consensus is translated into protective norms. UNESCO leads this tier. They have moved past issuing voluntary principles and now provide actionable blueprints for member states drafting national legislation. This spider chart illustrates UNESCO's readiness assessment methodology, evaluating a country's capacity across 5 dimensions: legal frameworks, social cohesion, economic shifts, educational, scientific capacity, and technological infrastructure. The output provides governments with concrete, localized policy recommendations to align internal laws with global standards. Parallel to national legislation is corporate responsibility. The UN Human Rights Office uses its BTEC project to integrate human rights due diligence directly into the design cycles of tech companies. High Commissioner Volker Turk identifies unchecked corporate influence and the misuse of generative AI as a clear and present challenge to the human rights system. Unless human rights protections are forcefully integrated into how models are built and how capital is invested, technological advancement will naturally result in the violation of fundamental protections. Policy directives mean nothing if they break the software. Layer 3 addresses technical interoperability, translating those legal norms into hard-coded standards. The International Telecommunication Union operates here, building a trusted technical backbone. They establish the hard specifications required to run machine learning over advanced global networks. This layer also has to resolve the output problem. When generative AI creates text or video, it creates severe legal ambiguity regarding copyright and patent protection. This schematic details WIPO's artificial intelligence interchange, routing data through a technical filter. First, attribution ensures creators are recognized and compensated when their works are ingested. Second, authentication applies digital watermarks to track and verify AI-generated content once it enters the public domain. By embedding attribution and authentication into the data pipeline itself, the UN is shifting the burden of legal enforcement from courtroom litigation to the underlying code of the digital economy. The apex of the stack is Layer 4, sectoral deployment. This is where governance translates into direct action to hit the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN Development Program utilizes AI as a primary accelerator here, focusing on building trusted local digital ecosystems rather than relying entirely on foreign software. Under Director General Dongyu Ku, the Food and Agriculture Organization actively contrasts massive, compute-heavy AI models with targeted tools built specifically for smallholder farmers. They deploy small language models designed to run on low-cost devices in low connectivity environments. These models provide localized agronomic advice, preserving traditional knowledge and human agency. This operational transformation extends inward as well, coordinated by the UNICC AI Hub to modernize how the agencies themselves function. The UN Refugee Agency leverages multilingual AI assistants to parse thousands of policy documents instantly, reducing administrative bottlenecks and accelerating response times in active crises. Successful AI governance culminates here. It deploys AI as a localized, empowering tool for human use, rather than a top-down regulatory mandate. This governance stack functions as a holistic machine, but its integrity is tested against 3 critical fault lines. First, bridging the divide, transferring technologies to developing nations. Second, regulatory interoperability, harmonizing national regulations without stifling innovation. Third, ethical enforcement, forcing behavioral changes on tech companies. If the multilateral system fails at any of these 3 pressure points, the entire architectural framework collapses back into localized fragmentation. The UN is no longer a reactive bystander in technology policy. It has positioned itself as the central catalyst of the digital future. The stakes dictate the speed. The Global South requires immediate access to this technology to bypass legacy infrastructure, achieving true technological leapfrogging. This sets up the ultimate geopolitical balancing act, enforcing strict human rights-based protections while actively accelerating the economic growth that AI provides. The UN's 2026 blueprint serves as the only globally inclusive table for these negotiations, giving the remaining 118 nations a voice in how their digital futures are structured. Regulating frontier technology cannot be achieved by a handful of nations holding the compute power. It requires a full-stack, multilateral framework committed to the collective prosperity of humanity.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes, Bill.
Okay,
It's
so
very
your thoughts to that, and then I'm going to show a second one, which is going to delve into a very specific aspect of what's going on at the UN that really is going to be affecting everybody, especially with what Ramona was talking about. But I'd like to get your thoughts in general just about the idea that the UN has woken up. I was a little surprised to see how far things have come because I was very disappointed with the second World Summit for Social Development that took place in Doha, Qatar last November, because I felt it focused too much on jobs. But your thoughts? What do you think what do you think, first of all, just of that video? Jay mentioned the idea that the tools that are available today can enable some pretty amazing presentations be created. That was a one mouse click video you just saw.
yes,
Anyway, your thoughts on any of that?
Yes, Bill, a powerful full stack AI idea at a global level, especially for organizations like the United Nations, is to build an integrated AI ecosystem that solves real world problems end to end. So, this means combining front end platform, back end systems, and intelligent AI models into one unified solution. For example, an AI powered global education platform could allow students from any country to access personalized learning, real-time tutoring, and skills-based training. So the front end would be user-friendly apps and dashboards, the back end would manage data and learning systems, and the AI layer would analyze students' behavior, adapt content, and provide guidance. So this system could also connect learners with internships, remote jobs, and global opportunities. Such a full stack AI solution would not only improve education but also address unemployment, inequality, and lack of access to quality resources. So, in this way, AI become not just a tool, but a complete ecosystem that empowers individuals and creates sustainable global impact. So, to implement this full stack AI idea at a global level, such as for the United Nations, we need a step by step scalable approach. First, we start with a pilot program in selected regions to test the platform with real students and educators. Then we built a user-friendly front and applications, mobile and web, where learners can easily access courses, AI tutors, and skill-based training. On the back end, we developed a secure system to manage user data, track progress, and connect learning with real opportunities. So the most important layer is the AI system, which analyzes students' behavior, identifies learning gaps, and provides personalized recommendations in real time. Partnerships with schools, universities, and organizations are essential to expand reach and ensure credibility. So we also integrate internship and remote work platforms so students can move from learning to earning. Finally, continuous feedback and data analysis help improve the system over time, making it more effective, inclusive, and scalable across different countries. So, in this way, the idea can start small but grow into a global solution with real impact.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know to what degree you're familiar with Khan Academy. Are you familiar with Khan Academy?
No,
Okay, it's the largest education platform in the world, used by more than 140 million students worldwide. It covers everything from kindergarten or even preschool all the way up to the master's degrees. Includes tens of thousands of lessons that are automated, includes a artificial intelligence personal tutor that uses a Socratic approach to guiding each user through or each learner through all the learning steps to master, to really 100% master anything. So something you should look at. Another piece that's similar, that's moving forward, there's a school called the oh um, I forgot the name of the school. Uh, it's not the Abbott School, but it's similar to that in Austin, Texas. And that school replaced its human teachers with AI teachers. And they were able to reduce the school day down to just 2 hours a day.
Alpha
And
School.
they are, pardon, what was that, Mark Andrew?
Alpha School.
Alpha School, thank you. Thank you. And yes, they reduced the school day, the academic day down to 2 hours. And at the same time, they're now in the top couple of percent of schools in the entire United States in terms of academic outcome. They have been able to take the rest of the day and they use that for projects, for hands-on, for arts, for sports, and other things that are important for development. But the core idea is they've demonstrated that the academics part can be taught very quickly. One of the things that both of these is the personalization of education. Each student is learning at their own pace. So when you say, oh, I'm in fourth grade, you got to say, well, are you in fourth grade in math or in English or in history? Because you could be in one grade level in one subject and another grade level because you're moving forward at your personal pace on each subject. That doesn't mean there's not learning group dynamics by doing projects together, but you do projects together with people who are at the same development place you are. So you could have somebody that could be of different ages, a team of different ages, but they're all ready to deal with the same topic at the same time. So there's a lot going on that, and Khan Academy is available. I don't know what now. Last I checked it a couple of years ago, it was available in 40 different languages, so that it can make incredible progress. Now, having said that, you do need to be aware that most most teachers in the United States, at least, use Khan Academy wrong because the teachers assign, okay, I want you to learn to watch the tutorial on this lesson tonight, and then you do the practice, and they tell the whole class to do that. But the whole class isn't at the same place. So that's teacher-driven education is perhaps the number one cause of education failure in the world, because we really need to focus on the learner, where the learner's readiness to learn and where their mastery of the foundational the skills and knowledge is. Okay, anyway, we're gonna look a little bit more at another part that Maimona was talking about here in another video in just a second. But what I do want to mention, Unitree was just announced in the last 1 or 2 days. Unitree is the Chinese humanoid robots manufacturer. They are coming out with an R1 robot that will cost less than $5,000. Now, this is a robot that can walk around and accompany you when you go to take a walk. It can be doing stuff in your house, can be doing stuff in your factory. We have to realize that humanoid robots have been working for almost 2 years now in the BMW plant in South Carolina in the United States. I don't know about, I think I read something that they're being used in Europe as well. When we look here at the the expectation of the price. The expectation is within the next 4 years, the cost of a humanoid robot that is more accurate, more precise, more dexterous, is faster and is stronger than any human, will cost about 20 to 30 cents per hour. 20 to 30 cents per hour. So just be aware of what would that mean for anything, for anybody being able to afford a governess to take care of their children, to be able to afford a nanny that accompanies the kids going and playing in the playground, that could be working in a factory, could be cleaning your house, cooking your meals. 20 to 30 cents is putting it into the realm of accessible to a lot of people. This is what leads Elon Musk to say that in less than 15 years, he expects there will be more humanoid robots walking around on the planet than there will be biological humans. This video I'm about to show you is very much related to what I just said, but the reason I'm fascinated about this with the humanoid robots is just a little more than a year ago, I was saying, well, the robot stuff, that's down the road. That's 10, 20 years. That's a long ways away. But the speed with which the humanoid robots, and especially the dog robots, canine robots, are advancing is so fast that what you can expect to see in just 5 years, 4 or 5 years, is amazing. But when you add another 5 to 10 years on top of that, it's easy to see how these humanoid robots walking our planet, they'll be more intelligent, they'll know more, they'll be able to do more. They will be able to just watch any human do anything, figure out how to do it better, and do it immediately in that time frame. So anybody who's right now in school, let's say in middle school, you got to realize that by the time you get out of high school, these robots are going to be walking around doing these kind of things. Any comments from anybody on that development before I show you this other video about the UN?
Yes, Bill, I would like to connect the future of AI learning with another powerful innovation that is humanoid robots, as you were saying. So platforms like Khan Academy have already transformed access to education, but the next evaluation is to combine AI-powered personalized learning with humanoid robots such as Sophia. So imagine a system where students not only learn from digital platforms, but also interact with intelligent humanoid assistants that can teach, guide, and respond like real mentors. These rewards can increase engagement by making learning more interactive, especially for students who struggle with traditional methods. For example, in classrooms with large population, a humanoid robot can provide individual attention, answer
Maimona,
questions.
before you continue, Maimona, I just want to, I don't know if you're aware of Conmigo. Within Khan Academy, Conmigo is a tutoring companion AI that accompanies the learner and can explain to the learner anything that's going on or help the learner understand in depth about any aspect of anything they're trying to learn.
Yes, Bill.
Yeah, so that's something here that you might want to take a look at where that's at right now. But it's very important to realize why do we think the future will not include teachers? 3 years ago at the United Nations, there was a World Summit on education transformation. And maybe the number one important thing that came out of that is the goal of education should no longer be, or the primary goal, no longer be to teaching you how to do stuff, except with one thing, how to learn. The idea here is that knowledge is changing so quickly that everybody has to be a lifelong learner. You can no longer say, okay, I went to school for 12 years and I learned all this stuff now. I'm just going to practice it for the rest of my life. That people are going to have to just continually educate going forward. And what that requires is people have to be an independent learner. When you're 30 years old, there's no teacher standing over your shoulder saying, now do this, or let me tell you how this works. So the idea that something or someone is disseminating the information and the learners just need to open their head and let it flow in. But that people have to learn how to pursue knowledge, that the knowledge they need to know. This also involves a debate that's been going on recently between the existing traditional education system is a just-in-case education system. We teach young people all kinds of knowledge just in case maybe they need it. I don't know how many people have gone to school, learned trigonometry, and have never used it since they left school. And that applies to many other aspects of education. But what's happening is because of AI and because of a lot of other things, just-in-time knowledge is now possible. So if we think about it today, your cell phone here, and you've got a chatbot on it, and let's say that chatbot, we're a couple of years down the road, and you've got a little headband on here that reads your brain waves, and that you just have to think, how does that work? And it immediately tells you. Or you just ask your phone and it immediately shows you. Or you can, since almost 2 years now, there's a thing called AI Studio from Google. And one of the things that you can do on that is if you're on a screen of an app, that you can have and talk to Gemini about what's on your screen. So, for example, you could be doing a PowerPoint, making a presentation, and you could say to the AI, slide 3, I don't think that's as effective as it could be. Could you take a look at that and critique it and tell me what you think I could do to make it better, more effective? And it will do that. It will go through and say, this or that or whatever. Maybe it says, if you would add this kind of a background image, that might help get the idea across. Or it may come back to you and say, yeah, you're right. It's a little confusing. What exactly is the message you're trying to get across on slide 3? And then you would be able to go through and say it what it is, and it would actually help you do it, because then you might say, but I don't know how to do that in PowerPoint. And it says, okay, let me walk you through. And it might say, okay, you see the menu bars up on the upper left. I want you to click on that. Now the third menu item is this. Now click on that, and now do this, now do that. Walk you through how to learn how to do what you need to do in the moment that you need to do it. So those are things that are coming. But the idea of being able to have a humanoid robot that could accompany you everywhere, could cook your meals, clean your house, do all the work that could do construction, could do plumbing, could do electric, no limits to what it can do heart surgery. And the idea that in 10 years that we would have such robots that are available, and it might only cost a couple $100, as much as a cell phone today, less than a cell phone today. How do you feel about that? Somebody?
Surabira?
Yes, Mark Henry.
Can you repeat your question?
If you ask how I feel, I would say liberated that I know that, but not crazily excited. I think we're going to have to rethink what it means to be human and to have purpose for living. We're going to have to face off on that question much sooner than we thought. But in terms of easing the quality of life, I can see that, especially in areas where labor is becoming constrained or is very expensive. Like when I lived in Australia, I could clearly see the benefits of having that kind of uh, um, humanoid. But I think we're going to have to quickly reimagine what it means to be alive and what we're doing around, because then. Um, Basically, we've always had a value for human labor, human productivity. I mean, in African culture, the wealth of a family was gauged in the number of children,
Yeah.
just because that's the that's how big a field you could plow. So it's kind of been it's innate in our thinking, and we're going to have to reimagine life. Maybe this is a good space because we're daring to be great. So maybe we also need to dare to reimagine civilization. We may need to change our group, the name of our group.
Yes. No, but I think you're right. When we started looking at the Dare to Be Great about a couple of years before, about the 2018, we were all focused on education. That's why when you see,
Nations
hold on
Futures
just a
Lab
second.
is currently modeling a threshold they call the economic singularity.
Okay. Just wanted to hold on. I'm just gearing this up for. Come on.
So let me ask you something. What if I told
Okay. So we're set for that. Okay, so I just was setting up the next video I wanted to show you. I'm going to show you two versions of it because one version is sort of just a slideshow, a narrated slideshow. The other one is more of an animated video. But the as I say, we started off looking just at education, but since 2022, when ChatGPT came out, we realized here that this is coming very quickly and could have very profound implications. Now, I was involved with the fringes of AI since the 1990s, and I have a total of 60 years experience in software development and especially self-developing software development. So I quickly saw the trend where things were going actually quite a while ago, but I never would have imagined here that we would have this explosion that we've had just now in a little over 3 years. So let me show this video. Again, it has to do with the UN, and but it's going to show the UN from a different part. We heard about how the UN is looking on the one hand on regarding the regulation of AI or how AI fits in society and how we think it should fit in society. We heard about how the UN is fostering the use of AI in support of achieving the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And we didn't really hear about, but I have a presentation. I don't think we'll get to it today about how AI is being used to facilitate the collaborative consensus building mission of the UN in the General Assembly, in the committees, when the nations come together, the representatives of the nations, to try to work out what should the world do, what should the UN do, the nations of the UN, to deal with the major problems that we're facing out there. And AI is increasingly playing a very significant role for figuring out what are the details of the problems, what is the position of my country and why, how am I going to convince everybody else that our position is the right position, how are we going to come to resolutions about what we collectively as the world should do about the various problems we're facing. So, but this particular one I found very interesting. So let me.
So let me ask you something. What if I told you that while we're all
Oops.
debating whether AI will take some jobs, the United Nations is already deep into planning for a world with no jobs at all? Seriously. Right now, behind the scenes, a completely radical conversation is taking place about the end of work as we know it. And it's a conversation that could change literally everything. And what's so wild about this is that the UN is basically operating with a split personality. It's working on two completely separate and often clashing plans for the future of humanity. It's this incredible internal tug-of-war over what comes next for all of us. And this slide really lays out that split perfectly. See, on one side, you've got the job preservation camp. This is the International Labor Organization, the ILO. Their whole mission is to protect decent work. They think AI is just going to be a tool to help us do our jobs better. But then you have the other side, the post-labor abundance camp. These are groups like the UNDP and the UN Futures Lab, and they are planning for a future where human labor isn't just augmented, it's completely obsolete. Which, of course, makes you wonder, why on earth would a massive global institution like the UN even be entertaining such a reality-bending idea? What exactly do they see coming down the pike that maybe the rest of us don't? Well, the answer really comes down to this one key concept, the economic singularity. Now, this isn't about one robot taking over one job on a factory floor.
Before we continue here, just your thought. How many of you ever imagined that the United Nations would be planning for a world with no jobs? What's your reaction to that?
I think then they're being relevant because if it is a forthcoming reality, I think the UN would be best placed to be objectively reflecting on it, and then I would expect other institutions like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and the African Development Bank to be close behind and reflecting on what that means.
I would like to add something here.
Yes.
May I? I think more than United Nations and World Bank, before them, all the big businesses who are dealing with this AI, like Sam Altman and Elon Musk business and all the Silicon Valley, all these big organizations from all over the world, they have to be on one page. Either they are talking about economic singularity or universal basic income, because one way or the other, if it will be in their benefit, that after that, only after that, we all will be able to implement UBI, or I think economic singularity. Not UN alone can do anything unless and until all the business people, the main top-notch business hierarchy, is on one page. Not the countries, but the business, the people who are investing in the businesses.
Yeah, I think for the most part, if we listen to the speeches, most of the heads of the frontier technology companies are pretty much in agreement on things like universal basic income and things like that. I think most of them see a very similar future. The UN had a side event at Doha in November that talked about universal basic income and actually came out against it. It came out against it to the degree that it would be financed by taxing the wealthy. We're seeing that AI is causing a big consolidation of wealth in the hands of very, very few people. And the idea that those few, the windfall wealth that these handful of people are getting because of AI, that means they should have to pay for everybody else to live. And that side event in Doha, they called that here the new feudalism. So they came out against that because they said that would create a permanent conflict between a dependent class, a huge, huge dependent class, and a tiny, tiny owner class. The owner class would be wanting to give as little as possible up, and the dependent class would want to maximize the amount that they would get out of their share. And so this is part of a debate. But let's watch the video further because it'll get into some of those points.
This is the tipping point where AI stops being a helpful tool for people and becomes a system that replaces people entirely, not just in one sector, but across the board, in every sector. And here's why that's such a big deal. It completely breaks our entire economic model. I mean, for centuries, the system's been pretty simple, right? People work, they earn wages, and then they use those wages to buy stuff. But the economic singularity completely shatters that first link in the chain. If AI replaces labor, then there are no wages. And if there are no wages, who's going to buy all the things the AI is producing? The whole economic engine just grinds to a halt. And look, if you think this sounds like some far out sci-fi theory, think again. This concern goes all the way to the top. The UN Secretary General himself, Antonio Guterres, has straight up called for a new social contract. And he's even thrown around the idea of a universal basic income. That's a huge signal that the old contract, the one we've all been living under, is about to expire. So this obviously creates a gigantic problem. If you don't have people earning wages and paying income tax, how do you fund, well, everything? How do you pay for schools, hospitals, roads? How does a society even function without its main source of cash? Well, the leading idea they're kicking around is something they call the automation dividend. The core of it is pretty simple. You find a way to tap into the absolutely massive productivity and wealth being generated by AI. It's basically a mechanism to take a slice of the incredible profits from the AI owners and redistribute it to everyone else to pay for this new social contract. But some of the proposals go way beyond just taxes. They're talking about fundamentally rewriting the very idea of ownership. I mean, imagine this. Instead of paying taxes with cash, AI companies pay their taxes with shares in their own company, making every single citizen a part owner. Or picture the government itself building a huge portfolio of AI assets to pay everyone a universal high income. This isn't just fiddling with the tax code. This is a whole new way of thinking about who owns the future. Okay, so let's just pause for a second. Let's imagine we actually solve the money problem. Society is funded, everything's stable. That leads to an even bigger, maybe even more profound question. What's our purpose? What do we all do all day in a world that doesn't actually need us to work? And the UN's most detailed blueprint for this is something called the engagement credit economy. The big idea here is to completely replace that old labor for wages system we have now. Instead, you'd have an engagement for credits loop. You'd earn your living not from a job, but by contributing to society in other valuable, meaningful ways. And engagement could be all sorts of things that our current economy pretty much ignores because they don't have a price tag. You know, taking care of an elderly parent, volunteering to clean up a park, learning a new language, mentoring a kid in your community. All of these things could become the new valid forms of work. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating because this slide reveals a deep philosophical divide. The engagement credit economy. It still suggests that our value as people comes from our contribution, from what we do. But there's this rival idea, the existence dividend, that says, hey, AI was built on all of human knowledge, so every human deserves a piece of the pie just for being alive. It's a huge debate. Is purpose something we earn through action, or is it our birthright? So let's zoom out for a minute, because this whole transformation isn't just happening in wealthy countries. For decades, the path to development has been through low-cost labor and manufacturing. What in the world happens to those countries when a robot in a rich country becomes cheaper than a human worker in theirs? This is what the UN is really worried about. They call it premature deindustrialization. It's the very real danger that entire countries could have their economic ladder kicked out from under them. Just as they're trying to climb up that ladder through manufacturing, AI allows wealthy countries to just bring all those jobs back home, leaving the developing world completely stranded. Because of that threat, the UN is basically pushing a whole new global playbook. The old model, competing on cheap labor, is dead. It's obsolete. The new model is all about competing on what they call sovereign intelligence. So instead of trying to attract foreign factories, the new goal is to build your own data centers. Instead of exporting shirts, you export AI-powered services. The dream is to leapfrog the industrial age and jump right into the intelligence age. So as we wrap this up, it becomes pretty clear that the stakes could not possibly be higher. According to the UN's own research, the path we're on right now leads to one of two very, very different outcomes for all of humanity. On the one hand, we could get a breakdown, a future they call neo-feudalism. In this world, a tiny, tiny elite owns all the AI, all the robots, all the infrastructure, and the rest of us, we become a kind of digital peasantry, totally dependent on them. But on the other hand, we could have a breakthrough into what they call the infinity economy, a world of shared abundance, where AI is treated like a public utility, a shared inheritance for every single person. The truly mind-bending thing is that the UN is actively planning for both of these futures. They see the dystopia and the utopia as equally possible. And that leaves us with this single most important question of all. Which one are we, with the decisions we're making right now, actually building?
Okay.
Very nice. Amazing.
Okay, that's the one. Now, let me see if I can quickly find the other. Almost, yeah. Whoops.
The United Nations Futures Lab is currently modeling a threshold they call the economic singularity.
Okay. Okay, I'm playing the second one now.
The United Nations Futures Lab is currently modeling a threshold they call the economic singularity, the point where automation stops being a tool for workers and becomes a system that replaces them at scale across all sectors. Modern capitalism is built on a specific macroeconomic sequence. Labor generates wages, and those wages fund the consumption that drives growth. This circular flow has governed global distribution for centuries. But as artificial intelligence transitions from augmenting human effort to wholesale substitution, that sequence breaks. If labor becomes economically valueless, the flow of wages stops, and the primary mechanism for recycling wealth back into the economy vanishes. This shift has created a philosophical schism within the UN. The International Labor Organization focuses on job preservation and upskilling, while units like the UNDP and the Futures Lab are modeling a post-scarcity transition where human labor is no longer the primary engine of social participation. This projection has moved post-labor blueprints from the periphery of research to the center of global policy discussions. To manage the potential collapse of the global labor market, The United Nations is actively engineering the architecture for an infinity economy, a system designed to decouple survival and wealth distribution from human employment. If the existing macroeconomic loop is not replaced by a new system of circulation, the default geopolitical trajectory leads toward a specific failure state. This chart shows the snake jaw effect. As automation drives corporate profits sharply upward, the share of global GDP going to wages drops to a flat line. The value generated by machine intelligence diverges completely from the human population's ability to capture it. Mass labor displacement systematically dismantles the income tax base. Without wages to tax, the fiscal foundation that sustains the modern nation-state evaporates. As governments lose their revenue streams, the nation-state becomes functionally subordinate to a vanishingly small class of private infrastructure owners who control the compute capacity. UN research defines this as a neo-feudal equilibrium. It is a system where wealth and power concentration mirror the era of absolute monarchs, but with a degree of technological permanence. Unlike historical feudalism, this order is resistant to revolution. AI-enforced security and algorithmic control do not require the cooperation of a human workforce, nullifying the traditional power of labor strikes or civil dissent. Without radical macroeconomic intervention, global society stabilizes into a permanent, unchallengeable oligarchy, insulated from its own population. The UN is currently testing two primary frameworks to reestablish economic circulation and prevent this stabilization into oligarchy. The first is the Engagement Credit Economy, or ECE. The rationale here is psychological. Labor traditionally provides structure and identity. Proponents argue that preserving human agency through participation is essential for social stability. In this model, survival is decoupled from market productivity. Citizens earn credits by performing non-market activities, such as care work, volunteering, and lifelong learning. This creates a new cycle where social contribution drives consumption. However, internal UN critiques warn of the discretionary trap. If a central authority dictates what forms of engagement are worthy of credit, the system becomes an instrument for elite control and administrative rent extraction. The alternative model proposed by the Futures Lab is Universal High Income, or UHI. Universal High Income models a payout tied to the total output of the machine economy. This system distributes wealth based on a membership right to the collective productivity of AI, rather than individual activity. This is funded by the Artificial Intelligence Dividend Income Program, which effectively socializes the gains of non-human labor to ensure everyone receives a share of the resulting abundance. Existence-based payouts serve as a macroeconomic stabilization tool. Without a way to recycle machine-generated wealth back to consumers, the automated economy lacks the demand necessary to sustain itself. The shift to these circulation models requires a new fiscal strategy, as the collapse of human labor renders traditional income and payroll taxes obsolete. Governments are moving towards taxing compute throughput and retail token generation. This model targets the productivity of the hardware rather than the activity of humans. But shared ownership is considered a necessary condition for fairness. Without a stake in the infrastructure itself, the 99% remain in a state of permanent material dependency on those who own the machines. The UN's radical sharing the algorithm proposal suggests an in-kind tax structure. Instead of just paying a portion of their profits in cash, AI firms are required to remit equity shares directly to the public. By distributing these direct equity shares, the entire population becomes fractional owners of the means of production, granting them a permanent legal claim to the output of the machine economy. This shift is grounded in the legal doctrine of the common heritage of mankind. Historically, this principle has protected shared resources like outer space and deep seabed minerals from private appropriation. UNESCO is now extending this framework to AI foundational models and distributed knowledge systems. The argument is that because AI is trained on the collective knowledge of all humanity, its output is a human inheritance that must bypass traditional intellectual property laws. Without this expansion of common human rights, the public has no legal mechanism to claim the wealth generated by machine intelligence. These macroeconomic shifts depend on the control of physical infrastructure. In a post-labor world, geopolitical power is dictated by the hardware. This map illustrates a backstopping effect. Robots in high-wage countries have become cheaper than human labor in the global south. As manufacturing reshores to the north, raw data flows out of developing nations to be processed elsewhere. UNCTAD warns this leads to premature deindustrialization. Nations that rely on a low-wage export model are losing their industrial base before they can achieve high income status. This creates a cycle of data colonialism. Developing nations export data for free and are forced to buy back the intelligence created from it. The UN's response is the promotion of data sovereignty. This categorizes physical data centers as critical national utilities, strategic infrastructure as vital to a nation as its power grid or water supply. Agencies like the FAO are deploying localized small language models that run on low-cost devices. These tools allow nations to process intelligence locally, tailored to their own agricultural and social realities. Hosting compute hardware locally ensures a nation's epistemic independence. It prevents its population from being subject to the off switches or manipulation of foreign algorithms. In a post-labor society, the nation that owns the engine room of compute capacity owns the productive capacity of its civilization. The core challenge is now clear. Private ownership of AI alone cannot provide global stability once the labor market has dissolved. A stable post-labor state requires a specific foundation: data sovereignty, sovereign compute utility, and public equity. The institutionalization of these frameworks is already being executed through the UN's new Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies. By establishing the Independent International Scientific Panel on AI, the UN is moving from reactive observation to proactive, system-wide integration. Sustaining the nation-state depends on moving past market-driven distribution and toward a model of participatory governance, one where the output of the machine economy is managed as a public utility rather than a private service.
Okay. Okay, so there's a couple of things here that I think that are important to note on that. And that is that a lot of these projections from the UN that are talking about the future are not considering that the multimodal aspect. So we heard about the UN working on the food office, working on the apps for smallhold farmers. But what's not taken into consideration is on the robotry side that we are going to see basically robots growing the food all over the world unless that it is regulatory banned because no smallhold farmer will be able to grow food for as cheap as a robot can. And so that they're just not thinking enough into the extremes of what would happen. So their solutions that they're working towards, in some cases, are already obsolete. And I'll see. Sarah, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this. I so much love what I just see now on the screen. You understand? I'm still begging and I'm still asking that we in the other worlds, you understand? Like you in the Western world, you have started enjoying this AI. You understand me, sir? I still want to plead with you, like I said last week. Like some of us from the third world country, how we can be a beneficiary of this, not just watching. You understand? How we can be a beneficiary. If there's anyone among us that knows how to project this AI and how to do it, we should be able to come under his umbrella and learn so that we will not just be a cast out. Coming to the meeting is another advantage for us to get something together that will be able to help us in our NGO, in the extension of the farming, and so many things we are planning to do. So I want to beg you, sir, that and some of other of our people here that know much about this, like in the country where we come from, we try to learn just to put, like, I write films, I write poems, how AI can help us to be able to generate something for ourselves and for people around us. So I want to beg you, sir, to please, anyone that know much about this AI should come and be able to help us and teach us and train us, so that we can be valid when the future now finally come with AI. It's not only the genetic AI and the other AI we should know. We have to be advanced. And me, I'm begging on my own. I don't know about others.
Sarah,
And,
Sarah, you're in Nigeria.
Hey, Bill, wouldn't that go into, some of the subsets of our particular strategy is deploying out our many Rotary clubs. And, one of our cores for Rotary International period is vocational training.
Yeah.
Would that fall into that portion of the strategy?
Yes, Jarek, if you recall, we have a concept, two concepts. One particular, we called it Rotary University. The idea of free online universities for anyone, anywhere in the world, for any subject. That if we look, the professional organizations, almost all universities, the university programs, they have a model curriculum. And that model curriculum is usually provided by their professional organization, the American Medical Association, American Marketing Association, the Data Processing Management Association was the model UN when I was teaching at Purdue, or the model curriculum. But we have to now look here, and so we had this concept that we were looking at 7, 8 years ago, that was, can we provide a free university? Because there's the education is separating. AI is enabling the accumulation of knowledge to be separate from the certification, from the credentialing. So in other words, right now, universities, as their business model is, if you want that piece of paper that says you have a degree from that university, you have to pay them. So even if you already know everything and you could just take the tests, they require you to pay a large share of the curriculum as if you were taking up classroom space, because that's their business model. But we're moving towards an era where there's going to be many, many companies that are offering degrees that you just take the tests. You just need to prove that you have the skill, and they'll give you the certification that's proof that you've got the skill. And that is going to replace traditional university degrees. So the thought was to get the professional associations to work with us to say, hey, here's the tests that allow us to certify that somebody has the knowledge. And on the other hand, we have professionals who curate what are the learning aids that would help someone to learn the skills they need to be able to pass the test to prove they have those skills. That's been, it's being right now, unfortunately, a little bit superseded, because the idea is you have in Nigeria, there's Hectvad, I think it's called some, let me see, a Dr. Amos Obi, for example, he has a very, very large scale education program there. And let me see. Hetavid, a Hetavid Digital Hub, HETAVED Digital Hub. And he trains young people to have skills, technical skills, to be able to get jobs. There's also a program called the African Leadership University. It's the gentleman's name is Swaniker. I keep saying Ralph, but I don't think that's his right name. But Swaniker is the last name. He's the founder and president. He is working to build campuses all over Africa. His goal is to train 3 million young African leaders. And he's using the latest technologies. However, having said all of that, the problem is if I was to go 3 years ago at the UN and say, or even many of the people talk to the UN just 6 months ago and say, hey, we've got to figure out what are you going to do here if the jobs aren't there with a country like DR Congo, for example. And they would have looked at me and said, well, that's never going to happen. The jobs, you can't replace humans. And now we see that the UN is really waking up very strongly and realizing the jobs are disappearing. So what skill should we teach people for them to earn when AI is developing the AI? Because that's what's happening. There's a thing called recursive self-improvement, and that's where AI develops the next generation of AI. And about a week to 2 weeks ago, a gentleman named Matt Berman, who's really an analyst who studies what's going on in the latest, I saw a report on the first successful case where AI was used to develop the new version of AI. So this is why computer programmers is considered to be a dead-end job. Maybe a year left, and almost all computer programmers are going to be out of jobs, or very many of them, a very large number. And that's going to be the same thing for prompt engineers and for people who are studying AI. You don't, why? Right now, most people who are really experienced, when you go and say, okay, well, it's really important how I ask AI what I want from it. The prompt is really important. But the people who really understand that, they don't develop their own prompts anymore. They ask, the first step is to ask AI, can you help me develop a prompt that's going to cause AI to do this thing that I want it to do? And then can you critique the prompt that you just made, and how can I make it better? And so I know I tell my wife all the time. She says, "Can you help me? Ask AI this." And I said, "Well, you can do it." And she says, "It's too hard to figure out what to ask." So I said, "Well then ask AI. What should you ask?" and it will do it. So having said that, though. I think for right now, it's good for as many people as possible to understand, and for the long term, to understand AI. Not to necessarily do stuff, but to understand things, right?
Yes.
That's it. Schools banned AI for a long time because they said, oh, the students are just going to use it to cheat. They're going to use it to write the papers. They're going to use it to do the research, and they're not going to learn themselves. But in reality here, the real opportunity, and it's something I'm going to show in the last half hour here, is how you can use AI to understand stuff, to learn stuff. This is where AI is really getting good. Google just recently released something called the SAT. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the SAT test that is used for college entrance in the United States. Or in India, you've got the JEE, the joint, what is it called? The joint entrance examination that all technical universities give this one examination, and then they use that to evaluate who's ready to be accepted into their universities. So the SATs here. So there's a company called Princeton Review that many years published books to help with practice tests for kids to be able to take practice tests on how to pass the SATs or how to score high on the SATs. And they partnered with Google and they made an automated practice test program. Now, what this test program does is it enables the student to take the test. I think it's free right now. Take the SAT, practice SAT test. Then it will go and analyze the results of taking the test and identify all the areas you're weak on. Then it will go and develop a study plan to help you master all the stuff you're weak on in taking the test. That includes, it'll generate flashcards. It will generate explainer videos that will explain to you why, how it works, all the details about the areas that you're weak in.
What do you call the test again? What do you call the test again, sir?
SAT.
SAT test.
SAT. So
Okay,
you
sir.
can Google SAT test, but don't Google it. Go into any search tool and say Google SAT test prep. Now, okay, so then it will create the flashcards for you. Then it will walk you through the flashcards. It'll show you explainer videos. It'll explain to you the principles of the material to learn. Then it will go and it will generate flashcards for you to practice remembering. And then as you do go through the flashcards, if you've got them right, it'll just put them aside and it keeps narrowing the deck down to just what you don't know. So it's walking you through to reinforce the learning on what it is that you need to be better at. Then it will generate new practice tests that specifically focus on the areas that you are weak on until you don't have any weak areas anymore. Now, the thing about it is you can do this with anything. And I'm going to show you here. Hold on. Yes, I've got it there. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. Oh. Okay. So is anybody on the call here not familiar with Notebook LM? Everybody's familiar with Notebook LM. Speak up, please, if anybody is not. Okay. Julie, did you say you're not? Yeah. Okay. At any rate, Notebook LM is free. It's from Google. There's a free version and then there's paid versions. There's two paid levels. One's $8 a month and one is $20 a month. I heartily recommend to anybody get the $20 a month because it gives you access to like about a dozen different tools. But what Notebook LM does, if many people who go, they use ChatGPT, they use Basic Gemini, Claude, whatever, all these free versions, and they say, yeah, but you know what? It makes stuff up. It hallucinates. I asked it here, who was the first president to land on the moon? And it gives me an answer. And we know no president ever landed on the moon. So one of the things that we're seeing is this concept of large language models is being replaced by the idea of small language models. The idea that you can have a curated set of knowledge about anything, but a curated set. So all of the sources of the knowledge is trustworthy. The general AI that pulled everything in from the internet, it's like going and standing in the middle of Piccadilly Circus or Times Square and asking a passerby how they would do heart surgery. They might give you an answer, but that answer is probably not very good. So, if you can go out there and pick what it is that you want to, the sources that you trust. It could be your own notes that you made over time on some subject. and you've got these 20 different notes that you made, and you want to synthesize and summarize all that information. But it could be that you're working on your PhD, your doctorate degree, and you're going and saying, okay, go find on this subject that I'm doing my doctorate on. I want you to go out there and find all the peer-reviewed academic papers, all the information on research on this particular area, and have it find it for you. So that's what Notebook LM does, and it's one of the hottest tools out there right now. So here is what you see if you're in a browser and you go into Notebook LM. You got three sides that show up. One is the sources. This is all those trusted sources of information that you're going to pull all the information. And you got a chat area here where you're able to go and chat with this knowledge base, this sum of all the knowledge on a subject. And on the free version, you can have up to 50 sources of knowledge. Now, why that's important is 50 sources. Each one of those sources could be an entire textbook, or they can be YouTube. So they can be a combination of YouTube tutorials, textbooks, academic papers, you name it. It can, and it will merge all the knowledge of all those sources together. So when you talk to it, it will now say here, it will only pull data from those sources. And when it does that and it comes up with an answer here, it includes in that answer citations. So it will tell you where in those documents it got that answer. So that here we can see that in your chat, while you're chatting with this and holding a conversation, you're holding a conversation with the knowledge base. It's like here that you go out there and say, what's all the research being done into fusion energy? Not atomic energy, but fusion energy, which generates electricity out of water, basically. And you can say, I want all the latest research. Go find all the latest research. And now you hold a conversation with that body of knowledge. It's like you talking to the world's best expert on fusion technology. So the middle section here is for these chats, if you would. The right-hand side is for is what they call the studio. This is for all kinds of artifacts that you might do. And the videos that I've been showing you today are videos out of this section here. When I come over and I get sources, I pulled in these sources. I went and I was doing some research in Gemini, and I said, when Gemini was done, I said, hey, promote that up to export that over to a Google Docs. So it took the research, the deep research that I asked for, and I'll explain in a second how that works, but it took all the results of that and it dumped it into a document in Google Docs. Then I said, it came over here and I said, hey, import that Google Doc as a source. And it goes and finds the source and pulls it in. It then summarized what was going on in the whole body of that knowledge of sources. And then I came over here and I just simply clicked on here, hey, make me a video overview. And when I go to make a video overview, I can say, make me a cinematic video, which you saw some, or an explainer video, which is a narrated slide deck. You saw that. Now, I can either come in here and say, well, go ahead and make me that video about the whole subject matter of this notebook, of this knowledge base. Or I can come in and say, make it on this one little aspect. Tell me how UNDP works, if that had been one of the things that I included. I could go in and if I loaded a textbook, I showed a girl from Italy, a high school student, how to use this. When she went home, she put her school textbook into this. And then she held conversations with her school textbook. And she could say, okay, I want you to make me an explainer video that explains how the content of page 247. What does all that mean? How does it work? And I want you to make the video so it will be understood by a 12-year-old, right? Yes, Albert. Yes, Albert. Albert, we can't hear you. We're not hearing you. It sounds like you're trying to say something, but we can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Albert.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes. Albert?
Hello?
Yes, Albert, please go ahead. Albert? Apparently he couldn't hear me. Okay. So you can come in here with special instructions. You can, so that's just with regards to the videos. Then you just generate. So what I did is I didn't put any of this in. I just came over here, clicked on explainer in one case, clicked generate, came over here on cinematic another time, click generate. You also can pick, so you can say, I want you to include all the sources, or I can say, well, you know what, don't include these three sources. Just make a video on the other parts there for that. You can come in here and do for audio and say, I want to do an audio. You can pick what language, and I think it's up to something like 70 languages. So we see. It's okay. It's reacting slow, but it's Urdu, you've got all Chinese, Japanese, you have all the major languages. And you can do either a deep dive, which is two people going to explain what's going on. You can do it very short. You can have a critique. You can do a debate. So the video that you saw, they're explaining that the UN is split, that the ILO is trying to protect jobs, but you have the UNDP and the Future Labs that are working towards a post-labor economy. And I have a video, an audio, where it actually had two people debate the pros and cons of those two different movements there. In addition, I can slide this over. Let me see if I can get this. Come on. Okay. No, it doesn't want to slide here. It will generate. Oh, I know where it is. Okay, Okay, then you can create a slide deck. That's another thing you can do on this. And the slide deck, I'll show you in a moment. Amazing, mind-boggling, the slide decks that you can generate. Then we get into reports. You can get into the reports, and on the reports, we've got here. You can create your own or it'll do a briefing doc, a study guide, a blog post, but it will also, and these are different depending on what your subject matter is, have it create a report of the policy framework, a strategic white paper, a concept primer, organizational guide. It's very good at figuring out what kinds of reports you might want to have. Mind maps, it'll generate mind maps. Infographics, again, really amazing what it will generate for you there. Oh, here, I'm going to just show you. Okay. So this is a slide deck that it generated, and just look at the quality of detail on this slide deck. This was one mouse click. One mouse click created this. Is that impressive or what?
Yes, sir.
So then we can go here, and there's this thing called quiz and flashcards. Now, the quiz, if you click quiz, you can come in and say, I want to do a quiz over the entire sum of all the knowledge of this knowledge base here, or I want to do it only on some specific area of the knowledge base. And I can come in and say, I want how many questions, what level of difficulty, easy, medium, or hard. And then I can specify here, create a quiz to help prepare for an exam on this aspect of it that has 30 questions, restricted to a specific source or certain concepts, and just generate the quiz. Now, when I get the quiz, and I'm going to come in here, here's a quiz that I generated on understanding about what this this whole sequence of sources is with regards to I finished it. I can review the quiz. Okay, so here's the quiz. So it said the United Nations dual track approach to AI and labor. Which agency is the primary advocate for the job preservation camp? So it comes through and it will tell you which one's right. If you got, I particularly got this one, it's right, but it could have been, I picked the wrong one. But I can always come in here and say, explain. When I say explain, it comes over and it's as if I asked the chat when I'm talking to the knowledge base here. And it's if I asked them to explain what this question was all about. And you can see it's going through synthesizing the source, formatting the response, differentiating the things, clarifying the advocacy, all this. You can understand how it's approaching the question. What's the logic that it's doing? So it's almost done here now. So here it is, and it came up with this information, and it gave me again all the citations of where did its answers come from. So I can come into the explanation of any question I got wrong, or even a question I got right, but I think I guessed too much, and I want to see the details on it. Okay, so, and you can export all this stuff as well. So okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. So I took the quiz and I finished the quiz, and I can go through all the questions that I asked. And as we saw, we can have up to 50 questions in a quiz. But now I can come on over here and so by the way, this is what it generated when I asked it to give me an explanation. It basically told the chat, hey, I'm taking a quiz on this material, and I was given this question and this blah, blah, blah. I chose the correct answer, or it would say I chose the incorrect answer. Help me understand more about the topic. So it could do that. So the other thing that I can do, though, is I can come over here and I can ask it, I say, I just took this quiz. Analyze the quiz I just took and identify specific weak areas make a list of all the weaknesses that I can use to generate flashcards, explainer materials, etc. So it went through, it analyzed all the questions that I missed, came up and said, here's a specific list of the weak areas to target for your study materials. And it came up with those areas. And then it said, hey, because you mentioned using those weaknesses for study aids, would you like me to go ahead and create a list of targeted flashcards or a Taylor explainer report focused specifically on clarifying these concepts that you're having trouble with? And so I say, sure, yes, please. Now imagine I could be using this. I'm taking a course on anatomy for my medical studies, or I'm taking a course on doing market research. And I take the quiz and I make mistakes. And now I can say, go in there, please figure out what I'm doing wrong, where I can improve. So, and then I can go and do data tables. Data tables is like crazy. I can go in there and say, you know what, go through all the knowledge we pulled out. Let's say you're doing that PhD study, and you could go in and say, you know what, go and make me a data table, a spreadsheet that shows all of the references and all of the 50 documents that talk about this particular aspect, showing what page it's on, and quote the sentence that mentions this, or the paragraph that mentions that, and it will do it. And you can export that then and take it over into a spreadsheet, and then go in and say, now I want you to go in and add the authors' names and their telephone numbers. Go out to the internet, find their telephone numbers, tell me their telephone numbers, whatever. Okay. And then infographics, we didn't mention. Okay, here's an example of an infographic. How does that look for a mouse click? Comments, anyone? One mouse click, and this is what I get.
Bill.
Yes.
I tend to find the infographics even more powerful when you put in some instructions. Like, for instance, if you're developing something and you want it as an explainer, say a meeting, it's amazing, you know. And I've done one or two when I'm explaining a concept, say like on LinkedIn, and I know I have a broad audience, so I'd like to clarify. So I just get my message and ask it for an infographic, and it's amazing.
Yes.
Because I give it context who are the likely people, and I can see from the feedback that the message hit home. You know, it was able to communicate what I was trying to communicate.
Yeah.
So there's the infographic component is really, really good.
And the thing about it is today, here's what you're just referring to, where you can describe the specific goal of your infographic and your audience and other things that you might want to use. You can also pick your style for the graphic if you want, but you can just describe it. If you don't want to go here and actually pick one of these, in your description, you can say, I want you to use this style or that style on it, and it is great. And what we saw on the slide deck, creating the slide deck today would be you can export the slide deck as a PowerPoint directly. So let me get down to the slide deck. Here was that slide deck. So here you can see I can download it as a PDF, or I can download it as a PowerPoint. I can show it as a slideshow, but here's this new thing called Revise. So if I pick Revise, it will show me my slides, and here I can write in just what do I want changed. I can say, change the background color. I can say, make it square or triangles instead of circles. it is just mind-boggling here, the ability of what you can do by just talking to essentially writing in what changes you want. And you can put them on undo each slide you change, or just change select slides, and they just come down here and say, generate a revised deck. And it will generate the revised deck for you. I'm expecting here that in a very short time, there will be the ability when you create a slide deck to just say narrate the slide deck, and you can either put in what you want as a narration or put in instructions for the kind of narrations, the kind of voice, whether you want music background, all those kinds of things. And you're going to be able to edit your narrated presentations that way. Okay, here over in the beginning, over here where I said, oh, hey, I took the quiz. Now analyze the quiz that I took, identify my weak areas, and then it suggested, hey, I can go ahead and create a set of targeted flashcards for you. And I said, yeah, you know what? Go ahead, do that, please. So here is what it did. It made this. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, job protection and the jobless future. Oh, let me go back here to that. Oh, space to flip it. Okay, so I just hit the space bar and it shows it. Here's the answer. And then I can come over here and say, hey, explain to me, the answer. So I just use these to figure out. And then I can say I got it right, I got it wrong, because what it will do is it will take the ones that I got right and move them to the side. And I just keep narrowing down the deck until I get them all right. So that's that. And I can come in here. It'll show the prompt that it used to generate the flashcards. And I can also come down and somewhere there's not here. Let's see, it was okay. So here's the flashcards I had, and I can come over here and okay, this is not showing me that I can do it there, but there's a way you can export the flashcards. And actually, I think over here you come over and say, okay, convert my flashcards to a CSV file. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share on that. Oh, over here, when you're looking for the data, you can either come up here and say, okay, I want you to add sources. And I can come in and I can add PDFs, I can add docs, I can add websites, I can add text, YouTubes, you name it. And but I can also come over here and say, you know what? I want you to search. I want you to do a deep research. I can do a fast research that'll come up and get me 10 of the best sources of information about whatever I describe up here that I wanted to do research for me. Or I can come in here and I can say, no, I want you to do a deep research. Okay, when Gemini does a deep research, it's an iterative process. It'll come up and it'll show you the strategy. How does it plan to answer your questions? It'll do that in regular Gemini. Here it'll more or less just go forward on it. But I just describe what I want, and then it will go out there. It will maybe search 40, 50 websites that it found that it thinks has information for what you're looking for. And then it will say, okay, hey, I went out and I looked at these 40, 50 websites. I found this information. This parts I found questionable, so I want to do more research on that. So, but this part over here is good, so we'll keep this. Now I'm going to go out and I'm going to research this other aspect of it in more detail. And then it will come back and say, yeah, I did that. And I found two different camps. One camp thinks it's A, and the other camp thinks it's B. So I'm going to go out there and I do some more research to try to corroborate either A or B and see where this is going. And it will go out there and do that. I have had it go and do more than 20 iterations over more than 400 websites to come to a conclusion. Now, in some cases, what it also does, it spawns different personas. So you go out there and say, hey, I want you to find all the expert information on this. So it will declare an expert persona that knows about your request, exactly the knowledge area of your request. And then it will create a skeptic persona that is very skeptical of the information. And it may generate 4, 5, 6 personas like that. And each one will go out and do the research for each of those iterative steps. And then when it comes back, they argue among one another. They have a debate, and each one tries to convince the others. It's almost like the United Nations collaborative consensus building model, where you have each side presents their position, and then they take a break, and everybody goes out and argues in smaller groups and tries to convince each other until it comes back with the answer for you. When it comes back, and it may come say, hey, I found 40 sites or 40 sources of what I feel is useful information. You can just click and say import them all, or you can click on view and say, I want to look at these in more detail, because I can come into any one of these that I found. And if I click on it, here you're getting this is the details of that particular source that I was looking at. It says, hey, these are the main sub areas under that, and then it will give me the details of exactly what is in that paper. I can go down and look at that entire particular paper here, and I can also okay, so I can also decide to uncheck any one of these, either not to use it, or I can come over here and I can go and remove a source, or I can rename it if there's two sources that have the same name, but they have different content. So we can see we can do quite a bit here. Any questions of maybe I missed something, or that about anything I was talking about here? Okay. One of the things here you can do in the middle of this, also in the chat mode, is after you find a bunch of sources, you can go over here and do an audit, where you say, okay, double check all my sources and identify any that maybe I should remove because they're not that good. Or you can go over and say, for this subject area, is there any area that I do not have good information on that I should do another round and specifically target to add sources that cover this aspect of the knowledge that I'm interested in? So anyway, I'm going to stop sharing here. Let's see if we can get to Albert. Albert, you want to try now to see if we heard you, but you didn't hear us.
Okay, all right, thank you very much, Mr. Bill. So my question was regarding what the UN, or let me say the universities in the US, what do they expect from candidates who want to apply to top universities in the US, and in the subject or in the area relating to the UN? And my second question too is regarding the app. Is it a paid app or is unpaid, and are students eligible to use this app for their long essay projects as well? Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Notebook LM, the basic Notebook LM is free, totally free. You can have up to 100 sources, pardon me, up to 50 sources. Each one of them can be an entire textbook. So you can very easily go in and take a subject like quantum physics and say, I want to know everything there is to know about quantum physics. You can go in there and say, I want to know about all the universities that have an international diplomacy or a course sequence in international relations. I want to know about that. I want to know about what the content is of all the different universities. What's the scope of their programs on this? So you can use it to do research, because then you can turn around and say, well, I don't have a lot of time, so let me please do the research for me, bring in the sources into this, and now create for me an audio or a video overview on the subject. Actually, there was one thing I wanted to show you that I missed there. I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to go down to, okay, here's the deep dive. Okay, so this is an audio overview of the subject matter. Now, the girl I mentioned from Italy, one of the things, she had to get ready for an exam. She went and loaded in the source materials, and then she said, okay, I want you to explain everything that's important that I need to know about this for the purpose of my exam. And it made an audio overview. So I'll start this one.
So imagine waking up today in April 2026 to find out your government is just no longer planning to tax your paycheck.
Right, mostly because the concept of a paycheck is, well, disappearing.
Exactly. Like instead, they are drafting actual legislation to tax the mathematical operations happening inside a server farm, 5,000 miles away.
Yeah, it really does sound like the plot of a cyberpunk novel or something.
It totally does. But today, we have our hands on a stack of internal blueprints, memos, and foresight scenarios directly from the United Nations. And they show this isn't fiction at all. Like this is the literal contingency plan for the end of.
Oh, our listeners got something to share. Let's hear it.
Yes. Hey, can you tell me, are you going to name agencies in the UN that are involved in this?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic question.
That is exactly what we are going to do.
We want to name names because this isn't just one monolithic UN entity.
No, not at all. You have different agencies with completely different mandates.
We are seeing this really interesting tension between them.
Right. So we'll definitely be talking about the International Labor Organization, the ILO.
They are focused on preserving existing work structures, which is their mandate.
And we'll contrast that immediately with the UN Development Program, the UNDP, and the UN Futures Lab.
Those are the agencies that are actively modeling a post-labor society.
We'll also look at UNTAD, which deals with trade.
And UNESCO for ethics and culture.
Plus the newly formed ODET, the Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies.
We'll see how they are all fighting this out in real time.
So yes, we're going to name all the agencies involved in the rest of this conversation.
It's important to see the different roles.
Because this is the literal contingency plan for the end of human labor.
It's a profound shift in global governance.
Yeah.
Because when we normally think of the UN, we picture diplomats arguing over immediate visible crises.
Border dispute.
Okay. So what you just saw and what this girl did, she put some headphones on and she went out and started a walk, and she's listening to the podcast that's explaining to her about the materials that are going to be covered in the test she's about to take. And she doesn't understand what did you just mean by what you just said? So she just asked. And while she's taking this walk, this thing is explaining to her custom answers. It's like here, if you had a CD player and you go out and take a walk, and you can interrupt the CD player here and ask it questions, and it answers it while you're walking. So that is really amazing. I feel that you can come in, you can pick a topic area, and you can say, okay, summarize everything. And I could have gone here and taken this from the quiz I took, and I got certain things wrong, and I said, go find for me my weak areas. And now I could have gone and say, hey, create for me a podcast that covers my weak areas. And I just listened to my podcast that's explaining to me how I can get those weak areas to be right, to master those. Okay. Any comments or questions about this feature here to be able to interrupt the audio podcasts with questions? And I think here within a couple of months, we're probably going to see that we're going to be able to interrupt the videos with questions like that. Albert, is your hand back up or is it from before?
Yeah, so thank you so much. So yesterday I sent my project submissions to you so that I could know your take on that before I start the actual long essay, because I believe strongly that um, who believe in the people who have the experience than them, when you reach out to them, you'll be able to get the proper guidance on what to do. So I will be expecting your feedback on that to help me to make a meaningful decisions on the long essay. And with the help of this app, I believe strongly that at the end of the day, I will be able to have a successful project. Thank you so much.
Yeah, one thing here, we did a little bit of a test with AI, asking AI about what impact tools like this have, for example, on somebody trying to do a doctoral thesis, to be able to pick what subject, because you can do a gap analysis with this. You can come in and say, show me all the research anybody's done on a particular disease or a particular economic theory or something. And then come in and say, what other information that's not there would be most valuable to have, and identify knowledge gaps in certain areas, and then go in and go back in and do a second round of research to go and find any information in the direction of the things that where knowledge is missing. And then you can get into the whole thing of how do I prove it? How do I check it? And so forth. Okay, I'm going to stop this one again. And last piece here, I'm going to share one other screen. Okay, Gemini. Oh. Okay, I just switched back over to Gemini, and Gemini has created something that's really pretty amazing. Okay, over here in Gemini, when I come in and I say I want to do something new, there's all kinds of tools over here. So I can create images. This is pretty mind-boggling, a new version. Canvas, with Canvas, I can take, I don't have time. Well, we have deep research I described to you. We can create videos. Now you can create music. Similar to Suno, you can come in here and say, I want to create a song. I want to write a song. And you can say, how do I do that? You can come in here and do guided learning. So, for example, if I was over in, let me see if I can bring that. Let's say we're going to do guided learning. And now I can come up here and say, I want to either upload files, add from Drive, photo. I can import computer code. Let me think I need upload files. Is it? No, that's not the one I wanted to do. Okay. So you can't do it in guided learning. If I came over here and I did deep research, one of the things that I can do okay, this has just changed. Okay, what I was, let's see here. If I come over, governing the machine, here's notebooks. I can create notebook LM type notebooks directly in Gemini now. I don't have to go out to notebook LM. So I can just come in here, create that. It'll find the sources, do all that stuff for me. But I can also come in here and I can link in to my notebook there. This is my 7 sources that I've got over there ready. And I want to see here. Yeah, okay, I can do notebook settings, a lot of different things here. What I was trying to get to, and I guess I'm not going to be able to do it from here, is I'm just going to create a new chat, same name. And now I'm come on back. Okay, yeah. So I'm now over here. I can actually come in and say, I want you to create for me. Is the thinking version. It's got me over in Notebook LM version. Okay. Okay. I wanted to get into Canvas over here. So if I'm in Canvas, I'm going to pick a subject like this. Early childhood brain development, which we know for education. I can do Pro. Okay, it's hiding my tools there. If you pick Canvas, when you're in Canvas, you can say, "Hey, make me a video." You can say, "Make me a video, slide deck." But what you can also say is, "Make me a website." So you can take your Notebook LM, your notebook from Notebook LM, you come over here, you open Gemini, and then you pick Canvas, pick thinking mode, and tell it, make me a website that is going to explain everything that I need a person to know about Victory Gardens. And I want you to have a section on this and a section on that. I want you to have the welcome page include 2 quotes from these people and a background picture of this and that, whatever it is. And it will generate. You can say include a form. Have it include a form so that people visiting can request to register for my newsletter. It's bringing these pieces together. And that's why I say the $20 a month for Gemini, the Gemini family is so worth it nowadays. It really is amazing. And also with the Help Me Learn, you can it'll bring in if you bring in Notebook LM like we just had, where you took the quiz and then you told it to go and do an analysis and find your weak spots, you can come back over here and now you can say, okay, I want you to use the learning guide in Gemini. I want you to use this learning guide to make sure I understand and master the content. And it will ask you Socratic questions, leading questions, rhetorical questions that are going to deepen your knowledge and understanding of whatever that subject area is. Okay, So, yes, Albert. Okay, I think.
Thank you so much. I think I've gotten my answer to all my questions, and then I believe strongly I would be able to do my project successfully with the advice and the guidance with the help of the app.
Yeah. No, it's really, and especially you combine Gemini, you can create Gemini gems, which are like stored procedures that you can reuse to go and do your audits or your gap analysis or things like this of a knowledge base that you created. Yes, Mark Henry.
Bill, two questions. In the case of the website, where is it hosted?
Okay, there's different.
That's something that I was thinking about, and it would be good if, as part of the terabytes of storage that we get with that $20, would be good if it can be hosted there, so that one doesn't have to start looking for external hosting.
Yeah, there's a thing called Google Sites. Be honest with you, I have not done that in Gemini. I had been using Claude for that kind of thing in the past, but I'm not. It's something here I need to test myself to see. Has anybody here tried creating a website in Gemini and see where it actually stores that? Because I do know, I think it's got a publish button. So you ask it to generate, it will show you. Then you can hold a conversation with it to modify the website to tweak it the way you want it. And then when you've got it the way you want it, and you can flip back and forth between looking at the code or looking at the actual website and walking through it. And then I think there's a publish button. It might be publishing it to Google Sites. And otherwise, you can export it and usually import it to wherever you're hosting websites.
Okay. I'm at a stage where I have to develop a site. So probably in about a week or two, I'll get that from. Because I was going to do it in another tool. That if it's possible to do it in the Gemini, I think I prefer that.
Yeah, there's Claude Code. Claude is really good for websites. ChatGPT's gotten good at it. They're pretty much all good at it.
I actually haven't explored Claude much because at one point I decided these things are proliferating. There's so many new things coming out that I tried one or two coming out of South Korea. So I just decided, you know what? Let me put $20 in Gemini and $20 in chat and work with those two.
Well,
because I imagine they will synergize off the others. So I will get to what the others are doing, probably with a lag of a month or so.
The one thing that's pretty clear now, whatever any one of these frontier companies comes up with, you can rest assured the others will have it very soon.
That's what I was thinking. So I was like, with that lag, and then when I try and post it with my time, which I'm stealing off what I could be spending with my kids, I'm like, no, okay, that's probably not a good trade-off.
And the thing about it is they're happening so fast. I think it was in November or October, on one single day, the top 5 companies released over 200 new features. It's crazy. It is so hard. Just looking here at Gemini and to think they between VO and they anti-gravity and what they're doing with Lyria now on the songs, on the music. It's just so many new features are coming out every single day. That's why I said when I checked here a little while ago about being able to add notebooks directly in Gemini, A half an hour before this call started, I went on my other device. It wasn't there. But when I looked just as the meeting started, there it is.
It was there.
So yeah, so it's really moving very fast. I hope
And
everybody.
Bill, since we're in this section, this is probably not part of the plan, but I heard of Claude Mythos. I think it's called Claude Mythos.
Yes,
I'm not in the
Mythos, yeah.
Claude system. You are in the Claude system. Could you comment on that? Because the context I had about it is top banking executives in the US were called in, and this had to do with vulnerabilities or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know something about Mythos?
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, for the last few weeks, I've been focusing more back on the Gemini family, because Gemini Live, they've really improved something on the latency there. Then we've got here Lyria, the new things there, and now the new quiz capabilities they're coming up
Yes.
with. So just I've really been so busy there, and I even anti-gravity. I haven't really stressed anti-gravity yet. And then what is it, CLI in Gemini? And you have AI Studio. You've got Vids. You got Labs. You got Google Labs. So just the Google family right now. I've
It's
really
a
got
lot.
to automate
Yeah.
something to keep track of all the changes.
I think you just need to figure out how to automate things out of your life. That's what I've been finding a lot of change with, working across the Google family and chat since I decided, okay, I'll fix my tent there.
Yeah.
And creating a lot of efficiencies in what I do, both professionally and in my Rotary. I mean, I can give an example of how Nano Banana has transformed the engagement in our club. You're talking earlier about engagement. Right now, things like, stuff that used to be quite static, like presidential messages. Now I will send personalized messages, and the impact I see, I mean, like birthdays, I'll just get a photo, and I will ask you to get me something like a Dutch Masters with a stoic statement, and I say something about somebody. Maybe they're going through a challenge, or they had some success in their family, something like that.
Perfect for
And the engagement, people are just coming back to the club. They're energized. And I'm like, that's really what leadership is about.
And
it's about getting people to want to do good in the world.
Yeah.
And it's these tools that are helping me. And these guys are like, how much did you pay for it? I'm like, oh, don't worry. You're worth the sweat.
Mark Henry, what I'd like to do here is in one of the upcoming meetings, perhaps you could go and describe what the kinds of things you were just going through, and how it's impacting your Rotary Club, but also how you actually do it. Because one of the big advantages right now in the Google family is they bring the whole family together. They got the skills. So the integration of the calendar and the Gmail and the Docs, the Google Docs, and the sheets and all of that. So maybe you could host a session and walk us through, in particular here, how you've been able to streamline things to help you with your Rotary Club.
Yeah, no, sure.
Great. Now we've been
actually. What I'll do is I'll share one of my Easter reflection on the group site.
Okay.
That is also something that really re-energized people. I really wanted to get people reconnected so that we know we still have about 3 months, which is still a privilege to serve society. So,
Jerica, now you got to connect up.
Out.
Jerica, you got to connect up with Mark Henry and get those details so we can start using that, automating the approaches. here within the Dare to Be Great movement, because
Absolutely.
we spend so much time studying this stuff, we don't really have time to use it.
And one thing I want to comment about, as far as the meeting goes, the latter part of this meeting has been quite constructive, because not only are we learning about the current status and circumstances surrounding AI, but we're also learning the tools, but then we jump straight into more constructive conversation about how we can utilize the tools. So one thing I would like to see is maybe somehow we can flip flop, so that when more members are involved in the meeting, we can do this portion of constructive commentary, because it's really been quite enlightening. And Mark Henry, I definitely will get with you on Telegram. Feel free to message me, and I'll message you back, and we can get some of those details done.
I'm more alive on WhatsApp, so if you've not seen me on Telegram for a while, and it's because I've not been there. So you could also let's do Telegram, but WhatsApp as well. I've sent these my Easter reflections directly to you, and then to the eClub and the emerging group.
Okay, good. By the way, Telegram has some real advantages over WhatsApp. They function almost identical, but one of the things, let's say you're trying to have a committee, or even in a club, you're trying to keep a group informed where new people are joining periodically. A weakness of WhatsApp is that any messages that are posted before somebody joins, they cannot see. Plus, the other thing is the number of people is just, I think it's like 100,000 you can have in a group in Telegram. And the size of files that you can exchange are larger in Telegram. And Telegram is even for encryption and so forth a little better than WhatsApp is.
No, I think July 1st, I might actually abandon WhatsApp for a few months as I detox from all the excess communication I receive as president, and then get more focus.
Yeah, I've tried
I
to
find myself constrained to WhatsApp because there's a lot of communication that is required as president, and so I find I am hundreds of messages behind in WhatsApp. By the time I've committed some little time to it, then I'm like, okay, now time to leave social media, So,
well, actually,
time to do something productive.
There are tools for both WhatsApp and Telegram that will let you automate large amounts of your interaction. I can learn about it and study it. I don't really have time to use it, but it would probably save me time if I would take the time to say, okay, let me automate some of these things.
I think if you crack it, let me know. I suspect Claude would be more advanced in that, and I think there was something called OpenClaw at one point. But because it was in the Claude family, I said, let me wait until it comes to the chat or the Google family, an equivalent.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's happening is, China's got a strategy here of basically saying one way to keep the frontier companies in check is by making everything open source. So they really limit the ability to monetize a lot of the tools that are out there because there's just so much good stuff for free. But China has really been finding very innovative ways to make functionality available on low cost hardware, and so forth. But it's interesting, for example, OpenClaw or Manus, to see how the underlying technology that they use to build those has spread into the mainstream tools. So anti-gravity and CLI and the Gemini family actually, I understand uses a lot of the technology logic that underlies OpenClaw. Although OpenClaw came out of Austria in that particular case, but yeah, it's just all moving so
And
fast.
it's called what? It's called Gravity?
Anti-gravity is the
Okay.
name of so you can look for YouTube and you'll find a number of YouTubes that explain how to be able to do open gravity. And then there's Opal is a tool, a graphics tool that enables you to build workflows, agentic workflows in the Google family. Okay, guys, we are approaching 3 hours and 50 minutes on this call. I think it is absolutely amazing here that so many of you stick with us for so long. But hopefully that shows we are putting out some useful information. And I am going to work here to publish our folder of projects, even though most of it has not been updated since 1919 or 2019. But it's still pertinent, and it's just that to really get the full advantage of it, we sort of got to do some stage setting projects that set the environment that enable some of the follow-on projects to be more successful. We could do the others initially, but we would probably get a very much smaller reaction. So we're trying to make sure it's all about impact. How big an impact can we have? Because once somebody gets started in our flow of these projects, we believe they're going to stick with them and they're going to go from one to the next and get involved. And each one of them are intended to build people's confidence and to make them feel good that they're having a positive impact on the world. So with that, unless somebody has any last minute comment, I will bring this meeting to a close. Okay, so with that then, Ding, I hereby declare this meeting on 11 April 2026 to be closed. Thank you all. Look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you. Okay.
Good to see you all.
Thank
Bye.
you
I
all.
I did requested from some couple of people their contact. I would appreciate if I could get it in the comment section, please.
Albert, are you on the in the WhatsApp group?
No, please, I'm not part of the WhatsApp group.
Okay, could you put your contact information here in the chat, and I will invite you to the WhatsApp group.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, good.